Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Sadness. After all, the higher the cultivation level, the higher the requirements for the mind. Li Zhirui was facing such a difficult situation when facing the inner demon tribulation of the golden elixir now, and it will be even more difficult to overcome the temptations she encounters in the future. Go back and consolidate your cultivation first. When Li Zhirui came to his senses, Li Zhirui had absorbed a lot of spiritual energy and completely condensed the golden elixir in her body, becoming a veritable golden elixir real person. In fact, Li Zhirui was a little confused, such as why Li Shiking, Li Shiding, and others did not come to observe and protect her when she broke through the tribulation. She was about to ask when she was interrupted by Li Zhirui. Thinking that the ninth brother was so calm, there should be no accidents in the family, so she nodded and turned back to the spirit cave. And the spirit cave, if nothing unexpected happens, will be her future cave. Alice, Li Zhirui sighed in his heart. The reason why he spoke first was to prevent Li Zhirui from asking about Tingu's situation, so that she would not hear the news of Tingu's death, and her fragile state of mind could not bear it. However, this matter could not be concealed for long. When Li Zhirui consolidated his realm and came out of retreat, he would know. But at least by then, his state of mind had passed the weakening period. The war is over. You don't have to refine spiritual objects day and night anymore, Li Zhirui turned and said to the many clansmen. Oh, everyone shouted with joy. Although they did not directly participate in the war, they were no easier than those clansmen. In fact, to some extent, they had to work harder. Because during the war, the consumption of various spiritual objects was extremely high, and these spiritual objects could not be generated out of thin air, so they could only work hard to refine them continuously. In the period before the outbreak of the war, in order to improve efficiency and output, the Li family even arranged 3 shifts. After Li Zhirui returned to the family, he did not rush to the redwood market again, because he believed that Li Zhirui and others would properly handle those things. The most troublesome thing was to count the water monsters killed by various forces, and then divide the points according to the water monster's cultivation level and set the order. Let those forces send a few representatives to come over and start distributing spiritual veins. Li Shiking and Li Shilian didn't want to deal with these things, so they had to trouble Li Zhirui. Not long after, more than a dozen foundation-building cultivators entered the room. They were the representatives of the forces that killed the most water monsters this time. They belonged to 12 forces, including 8 Immortal Cultivation families and 3 Immortal Cultivation sects. The most powerful one was a family called the Du family, with 2 foundation-building cultivators and dozens of key training clan members. The scale of this family seemed small, but considering that they had no fixed place to live before, it was already remarkable to have so many cultivators. Li Zhirui didn't waste time talking to everyone, and immediately listed the locations of the 12 spiritual veins, as well as their advantages and disadvantages. He gave them about a quarter of an hour to consider, and then said, Du family, you have the most points. You come up first to choose a spiritual vein. Du King Heo, who had always hoped that his family could have a spiritual vein of his own, never thought that one day he would be able to pick and choose a spiritual vein. After thinking and discussing with the elders beside them, they chose a first-level spiritual vein with the most concentrated spiritual energy. They were originally hesitant between the other ones, but they remembered a rumor that the more concentrated the spiritual energy of the spiritual vein, the easier it would be to be promoted to a higher-level spiritual vein. As other forces came forward to choose spiritual veins one by one, Li Zhirui said nothing about it, and only said at the end, you already know the locations of these spiritual veins. There are defensive formations on them. These are gifts for you, thank you, fellow Taoist Li. Everyone was surprised. After all, for these newly established forces, each spiritual stone is extremely precious, and a set of defensive formations requires at least several hundred spiritual stones. Now that this money can be saved, they can use it to purchase other things or improve their own strength. You can take your clansmen and disciples to the spiritual vein. After saying that, Li Zhirui stood up and left. Second Grandpa, I have taken care of everything and can return to the family. Okay, Li Shilian took the many clansmen who came to support him and sent them flying in the sky on a large spiritual ship. Grandpa, When will our Du family be able to have a large spaceship? The old man who founded the Du family was silent for a moment, and smiled. Fua works hard to practice. Whether the Du family can have a large spiritual ship depends on you. Time flies, and half a year has passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Li Zhirui, who had consolidated her realm, came out of retreat. The first thing she did was to find Li Zhiting to report the good news, but when she came to Li Zhiting's cave, she found that she was not at home. Li Zhirui turned away with some disappointment and went to report the good news to the two elders Li Shiking and Li Shilian. Second Grandpa, where did Aunt Ting go? Finally, Li Zhirui couldn't help asking. After all, Li Zhiting, who was already old, almost never went out far away. Zhiting died in a beast tide half a year ago. Although she couldn't bear it, she had to accept it after all, so Li Shiking didn't hide it from her, let alone lie to her. What? How is this possible? After hearing this, Li Zhirui was completely dumbfounded. She subconsciously denied and didn't want to believe it, but the tears in her eyes couldn't stop flowing out. Alice, Li Shiking and the other sighed. They knew that for Li Zhirui, Li Zhiting was not only her aunt, but also her teacher, and her closest mother. So it was difficult for her to accept Li Zhiting's death. Zhirui, you have to cheer up. Zhiting doesn't want to see you immersed in sadness, Li Shilian persuaded distressedly. Yet, Li Zhirui responded in a daze, as if she didn't see the two elders present, and left in a daze. Second brother, this, Li Shiking sighed again and said helplessly, let Zhirui be alone, maybe she can come out of it by herself. If it really doesn't work, then we can only think of a way. We can't let Li Zhirui immerse herself in it all the time, right? When Li Zhirui learned the news, it was already more than half an hour later. Zhirui, why don't you go and persuade Zhirui? I see she admires and respects you very much. Perhaps it was because she was pregnant that Zhang Fengwu softened a lot. Li Zhirui shook her head and said, let Zhirui be alone for now. We can talk about anything in a few days, but to everyone's surprise, Li Zhirui was immersed in sadness for only a few days before she recovered. Could it be that I was wrong and her character doesn't seem that bad? Or has her character grown after this disaster? Li Zhirui looked at Li Zhirui opposite him and thought silently in his heart. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 302 New Life. But soon, everyone knew the reason why Li Zhirui became so calm. What? You said you wanted to enter the infinite sea, kill the water monster, and avenge Shi Ting. No. Looking at Li Zhirui, who was as cold as frost and exuding a cold breath, Li Shiking refused without hesitation and persuaded her. You should know that the unicorn giant whale clan has 4th level and even 5th level monsters. Although you have broken through the golden elixir, you are still a moth flying into the fire and destroying yourself, and Shi Ting doesn't want you to fall into hatred and even lose your own life. Li Shilian also persuaded on the side. Li Zhirui not only did not accept Li Shiting's death, but it became her obsession. She attributed the cause of Li Shiting's death to the unicorn giant whale clan. Zhirui begged second grandfather. Li Zhirui knelt down blankly and said with a determined look, if you don't agree, I will kneel down forever. Li Zhirui, who hurried over after receiving the news, scolded in a low voice, Li Zhirui, you are the only one in the family who wants to avenge Tengu, right? You are the only one who feels sad about Tengu's death, right? With your current strength, what's the difference between seeking revenge on the unicorn giant whale clan and committing suicide? Li Zhirui's tone was very bad, and he said coldly, you will die, but if you offend the entire giant whale clan, won't they take action against the family? Have you considered the lives of thousands of other family members and the lives of nearly 1 million mortals on the island? Li Zhirui was speechless, his eyes were blank, like a puppet without any intelligence. Li Shilian was anxious and was about to speak to comfort him, but was pulled by Li Shiking, who shook his head and signaled not to interrupt Li Zhirui. But Li Zhirui did not let her go. Are you thinking that if you leave the family, you will not implicate so many family members? How many spiritual objects have you consumed in your decades of cultivation? Since you want to cut off ties with the family, shouldn't you return these spiritual objects? He could not think of any other way in a hurry, so he could only use a combination of pros and cons to see if he could cheer Li Zhirui up and not indulge in sentimentality. But if she fails to wake up, Li Zhirui's Taoism will probably be destroyed. As for what the result will be, Li Zhirui did not know, and it could only depend on Li Zhirui herself. Fortunately, in the end, the worst situation did not happen. Li Zhirui woke up from her sadness and no longer obsessed with the revenge for Li Shiting. Brother Jiu is right. With my current strength, I can't avenge Tengu, and I will implicate many clan members. Li Zhirui bowed to the two elders at the top. Zhirui has offended me today, please forgive me, both clan grandfathers. Li Shiking looked at her carefully for a few times, knowing that Li Zhirui had not let it go, but just hid it deep in her heart. He sighed in his heart and smiled reluctantly. It's good that you can figure it out. Go back and rest, Zhirui. Leave. After she left, Li Shiking smiled bitterly and said, this matter is her obsession after all, and it is not so easy to resolve. It seems that Li Zhirui is fine, but they all know that all this has only been suppressed temporarily. Once it breaks out again, the situation will be more serious than it is now. Li Zhirui was also helpless. After all, it was very good to have such an effect. At least it didn't make her completely depressed and her Tao heartbroken. Forget it, everyone has their own destiny, let her go. After saying this, Li Shiking became a lot more depressed and slowly turned into the back room. Seeing a descendant who should have been excellent fall into the mud and has a bleak future, it is a great blow to him. After Li Zhirui said goodbye to Li Shilian, he returned to his cave. Facing Zhang Fengwu's question, he only said two simple words. When our child is born, we still have to discipline him strictly and focus on cultivating his character, but Li Zhirui also knew that facing the death of his closest relatives, few people could remain calm. After all, they did not practice the way of ruthlessness. It was just that Li Zhirui's reaction was too extreme and too uncalm. And the child in Zhang Fengwu's belly, who had not yet taken shape, could never have imagined that he would have a miserable childhood. Time is the last panacea. The sadness brought to the Li family by the previous war has been gradually forgotten by everyone, and all the clansmen are moving forward. Especially after mastering the two territories of Yunpingzhao and Guangqingzhao, the family's income this year has reached a new high, enriching the family's foundation bit by bit. The original plan of the Li family to use the island moving magic to fill the sea between Yunpingzhao and Wangxin Island did not follow up. First, there are not many islands nearby, so they need to be transported from far away. Second, the sea is actually a barrier. For example, when the insect plague broke out in Yunpingzhao, the Li family was not affected. Anyway, for cultivators, the distance of more than 200 miles can be easily crossed by key cultivators as long as there is a flying magic weapon. In the mountains, time flies by quickly, and it has been 2 years. In the past 2 years, many major events have happened in the Li family, such as the birth of two double spiritual root geniuses. One of them is the Wind and Thunder double spiritual root, which can be said to be the best aptitude of the Li family so far. He is the 12th generation of the Li family's Zhu generation. Li Shiking personally gave him the name Li Zhuzhao. In addition, the Li family has also produced 3 members with special spiritual bodies. With the corresponding spiritual roots, the speed of cultivation is not much worse than that of double spiritual roots. It can be said that in a few decades, a group of members who are expected to form Dan will emerge in the Li family, pushing the strength of the family to a higher point. In addition, not long ago, Li Zhirui's second spirit beast, Zhaoqing, also successfully survived the thunder tribulation and broke through to the 3rd level. So far, the Li family has 5 giant cultivators, Li Zhirui, Li Shiking, Li Shilian, Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu, and 2 3rd-level spirit beasts, Taking and Zhaoqing. With such strength, it is enough to dominate the eastern part of Shanli Mountain. After Zhaoqing broke through, the mana fed back to Li Zhirui once again saved him 5 or 6 years of cultivation time. But even so, he is still a long way from the late Jinden stage. After all, in the Jinden realm, it is not possible to break through just by accumulating enough mana. Finally, something very important happened to Li Zhirui. That is, Zhang Fengwu's child, who has been pregnant for more than 2 years, is about to be born. No one expected that the child of Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu would be conceived for such a long time. Compared with the 10 months of pregnancy of mortals, Zhang Fengwu has been pregnant for more than 20 months. If Zhang Fengwu didn't feel it was too much of a burden, Li Zhirui would have wanted to perform a cesarean section to let the baby be born early. Chapter 303 Vision. Zhang Fengwu's birth was very sudden. It was late one night, and her stomach suddenly felt a sharp pain. Although she had never had the experience of giving birth before, the female talent in her heart made Zhang Fengwu know that the baby in her belly was about to be born. Zhirui, I'm about to give birth. Go and call the female doctors in the family, Zhang Fengwu shouted while holding back the pain. Because Zhang Fengwu had not given birth yet, Li Zhirui, who had stopped practicing at night, heard it at the first time and hurriedly activated the communication talisman to call the doctors and Li Zhirui. As for Li Shiqing, Li Shilin and others, he did not notify them. First, their identities were not appropriate. Although they were elders, there was a difference between men and women. Second, the time was not right. They were likely to be practicing now. The most important thing was that Li Zhirui had a hunch in his heart that the process of giving birth should not be known to too many people, otherwise it might cause some trouble. Therefore, when he sent the communication talisman, he specifically mentioned that they should keep their voices down and not alarm others. Soon, Li Zhirui and others came in a hurry. During this time, Li Zhirui prepared everything they needed. When they arrived, they cleaned themselves and went directly to the delivery room. Delivery is a very slow process. Even though Zhang Fengwu was born as a casual cultivator and suffered a lot, she couldn't help but scream in pain under the torture. This made Li Zhirui, who was waiting outside, anxious. He wanted to break into the delivery room several times to accompany her in the delivery. But Zhang Fengwu didn't want to, because she didn't want Li Zhirui to see her embarrassed appearance. He had no choice but to wait outside, pacing back and forth anxiously. Decades of self-cultivation and the polishing of the heart of Tao seemed to have become an illusory bubble at this time. About an hour later, Zhang Fengwu suddenly cried out in pain. Li Zhirui pressed against the door and asked anxiously, "Zhirui, how is your sister-in-law? Is she okay? Sister-in-law is preparing to give birth." "Brother Zhirui, don't worry, nothing will go wrong," that's what he said, but hearing Zhang Fengwu's cry of pain, Li Zhirui wished he could take her place. Time passed by minute. Although only 1 or 2 hours had passed, he felt that he had spent hundreds of years of incomparable suffering. In the delivery room, a female medical practitioner with sweat on her forehead suddenly shouted happily, "I see the end, Aunt Zhirui, please try harder." Zhang Fengwu, who was already exhausted, suddenly had a surge of strength in his body. Wah wah wah, a baby's cry rang out in the room, making everyone breathe a sigh of relief. "It's a boy." After looking at the gender characteristics, Li Zhirui quickly told Li Zhirui outside the door about it. "It's actually a boy." Li Zhirui was a little dissatisfied, because he wanted a daughter more, and muttered to himself, "I hope the other one is a girl." That's right. Zhang Fengwu was pregnant with twins this time, which was the result of the investigation a long time ago. "Don't relax, keep going, Aunt Zhirui has another one in her belly." Perhaps because of the experience, the second child was delivered very smoothly and came into the world in just half a quarter of an hour. "Brother Zhirui, congratulations on getting what you wish for, it's a girl." Li Zhirui said with a smile. Good. Li Zhirui was overjoyed, and then hurriedly asked, "How is Fengwu? Is she okay?" "Sister Zhirui is just a little exhausted, nothing is wrong, don't worry." Because he was immersed in his own world, Li Zhirui did not notice the changes between heaven and earth. The spiritual energy around him began to gather towards the delivery room. The moon above the sky suddenly shone brightly, turned into a layer of gauze, and slowly fell down. The sun, which was originally hidden in the night sky, suddenly flashed by, cast a little spiritual light towards the delivery room, and turned into a red gem in the air. When the moon and the sun showed unusual movements, the great powers in the world all felt it and looked up at the sky. Some great powers who were good at calculating the secrets of heaven began to figure out what was going on. Unfortunately, the secrets of heaven seemed to be covered by something. No matter how they calculated, they knew nothing except that the location was in the east. When the moon and the sun crystal came to the top of the delivery room, Li Zhirui discovered these two anomalies, and his heart was instantly covered with ecstasy. The anomaly fell from the sky. Although he didn't know how high the specifications of the moon and the sun were, as the two main stars of the Haitian stars, they would definitely not be low. If nothing unexpected happened, his two children would be of heavenly talent, in layman's terms, heavenly spiritual roots. Maybe there would be special spirits. In fact, Zhang Fengwu was pregnant for more than 20 months, which was already a kind of anomaly, but no one thought about it in the beginning. But after the joy, Li Zhirui felt a little uneasy, because sometimes having two good qualifications is not necessarily a good thing. When the two children's spiritual roots are tested, it is better to test them separately to avoid letting too many people know their qualifications. In addition, there are the medical practitioners who helped Zhang Fengwu give birth. They must have seen the strange vision, and they must keep their mouths shut. As members of the clan, Li Zhirui could not be so cruel as to beat them to death, or imprison them for life, so there was only one way left, which was to swear the Taoth and the Heart Demon Oath. After seeing the strange vision, Li Zhirui quickly calmed down and said, "Sister-in-law Jiayu, this is Sanildan, which can restore your spirit. You should rest for a while, you come out with me first." Then he turned to the medical practitioners and said. Li Zhirui saw them coming out and said seriously, "This matter is of great importance. You must swear the Taoth and the Heart Demon Oath and promise not to tell this news to others." The few people were not fools. Knowing the importance of this matter, they did not dare to hesitate and swore immediately. Seeing them swear that there is no problem, Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui both breathed a sigh of relief. If there are people who can't figure it out, even if they are from the same family, they will ruthlessly act in order to keep the secret. Thank you for your hard work tonight. These bottles of elixir are a thank you gift. Li Zhirui took out the elixir that he had prepared long ago and distributed a few bottles to each person. Thank you for your hard work, Xiao. As for the thank you gift, it was the third level Bakao pill recipe he deduced. Because this recipe is special, if it is leaked casually, it will cause big trouble for the family, so even if Li Zhirui deduced it, he did not give it to the family. But giving it to Li Zhirui alone and letting her refine it privately is naturally not a problem. Li Zhirui said to everyone, "The matter is over, you should go back and rest." After that, he turned around and went into the delivery room without paying attention to them. "Feng Wu, you have worked hard." Li Zhirui's face was full of pity and heartache. "Thank you for the reward from the big boss who will drink with you when you come back. Thank you for your support." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Secret Realm. "Zhirui, I'm worried about the safety of the two children," Zhang Fengwu said weakly. "You know, in ancient times, those who had strange phenomena were either great sages or great reincarnations. Although their two children were not so exaggerated, they caused the Taiying and the sun to move abnormally, which was definitely different from ordinary ones. What would be the fate of a child who took gold to the market? Needless to say, and the Li family is now that child. Once the news leaked, they had no ability to protect their two children. Don't worry, except for us, no one else saw the strange phenomenon, and I have asked those medical practitioners to swear an oath." The moment Li Zhirui saw the strange phenomenon, he expanded his spiritual sense to the limit. He did not find the existence of other people within a radius of dozens of miles. Moreover, it was late at night, and everyone was either sleeping or meditating. Zhang Fengwu felt relieved and asked, "Have you thought of the names of the two children?" Li Zhirui had already made various preparations, but he thought every word was good, so he had been struggling and could not make a decision, but the moment he saw the strange phenomenon, two words popped up in his mind. Li Chengsheng means bright and prosperous. "I hope Shenzhen will shine and prosper in the future," Li Zhirui said excitedly. "My daughter will be named Li Chengshu, which means the beginning and the first. I hope Shu'er will be vigorous and always the first. What do you think?" Li Chengshen, Li Chengshu. Zhang Fengwu silently repeated it several times, and smiled softly. "Excellent. These are the elixirs I specially made for postpartum recovery, which can make up for the body's deficiencies," Li Zhirui said softly. "You have a good rest these days. I will take good care of Shenzhen and Shu'er." Zhang Fengwu looked at the sleeping child reluctantly, but for the sake of his own path, he could only leave it to Li Zhirui. Carrying a baby is a great harm to the mother, not to mention that Zhang Fengwu has been pregnant for more than 20 months. If it weren't for Li Zhirui, a third-level alchemist, not only would her cultivation level regress, but she would even hurt herself. Li Zhirui took the two children to another room so that he could take care of them. However, they were very well behaved. They slept all night except for crying out loud when they were hungry. The next morning, Li Shiqing and Li Shilian, who had received the message, hurried over. When they saw the two little girls, their expressions softened involuntarily, and their eyes were full of love. In order not to wake them up, Li Shiqing signaled Li Zhirui to come out and said, "You are not very clear in the communication talisman. Can you tell us in detail now?" Li Zhirui told the two about the strange phenomenon last night and the subsequent treatment. and then said, when Shenzhe and Shui are 5 years old and their spiritual roots are tested, it is best to test them privately and not let too many people know to avoid leaking the news. What? The two were shocked when they heard the accompanying strange phenomenon, and then nodded repeatedly and said, your method of handling is very good, just do as you say. They knew what Li Zhirui was worried about. If Li Changsheng and Li Changshuo were really born with natural spiritual roots, the Li family would definitely not be able to protect them. Shenlai Mountain would most likely take them away directly. As a father, Li Zhirui naturally did not want to be separated from his flesh and blood. From the perspective of Li Shiqing and Li Shilian, they were also not happy that the genius who could lead the family to a higher level became a disciple of the sect. Joining only to become a disciple of the sect is not bad. They have a better growth environment and can grow up faster and safer. But the problem is that Shenlai Mountain, or a large part of the sect, they don't want the disciples to have too deep a bond with the family, and they say it's for their future path. So they will try their best to make the disciples and the family alienated and devoted to the sect. This is why the Li family has not sent any of their clansmen to the sect until now. Of course, it is also because the Li family has grown fast enough, and has the skills of the Jinden realm, and has the confidence to train the clansmen with good qualifications into Jinden cultivators. Like other families that have just begun to rise, even if they know that the sect has many problems, they can only send them to the sect for the sake of the path of the younger generation. Don't worry, we will cooperate with you when the time comes. With the promise of the two elders, Li Zhirui was really relieved. It happened that the two children were hungry at this time, and the three of them went in together and fed them with spiritual milk in small sips. As a beast control family, the Li family not only cultivates spiritual beasts for combat, but also has many functional spiritual beasts such as food and auxiliary. The spiritual milk that the two siblings are drinking now is produced by a first-class spiritual beast called Huanyu, which has been cultivated by the family. It has a mild spiritual energy and does not accumulate too many impurities. It is most suitable for infants. This is not a special treatment, but every newborn baby has it, even those born by mortals. Because Huanyu produces a lot of milk, the Li family has cultivated a large group of Huanyu for the sake of the family's descendants. Anyway, Huanyu is easy to raise, and the excess spiritual milk can be sold to earn a lot of spiritual stones. Just when Li Zhirui was busy raising children, a mountain in the southeast of Guangqingzhou suddenly appeared out of thin air. Is there really a secret realm here? Not to mention that we have been guarding here for several years. When Yuan Mingzong occupied this place before, we didn't hear of a secret realm coming out. A Li family cultivator who was patrolling here as usual couldn't help but complain to his companion beside him. Although there is a first-level spiritual vein nearby that is enough for them to practice, they are used to the Wangxin Island with 2 third-level spiritual veins, so they will certainly feel dissatisfied. Since the family arranged for us to come here, there must be a reason for it. The companion's mentality was good, and he smiled and said, anyway, the rewards for this garrison mission are generous and it's easy. If we are lucky enough to discover the emergence of the secret realm during our patrol, then we will be rich. These two are members of the Cheng family. Because they are young, and whether it is the Qingjin sect at the beginning, or the Yuanming sect later, or the current Li family, in order to monopolize the secret realm, they did not publicize it at all. So they naturally didn't know. He talked a lot, but he didn't hear the response from his companion next to him. He said with some dissatisfaction, why don't you talk? You got it. The man was excited, pointing not far away, and said, the secret realm is really born. What? He turned around quickly, and saw the spiritual light suspended in the air at the first time, and shouted in surprise, tell the family about this. The secret realm is about to be born. We are going to make a great contribution. Thinking of this, the two of them trembled with excitement. Chapter 305 Opening. You're back. Li Zhirui looked at the black-clothed girl standing in front of him, and introduced her with a chuckle. This is my Taoist partner Zhang Fengwu. She is holding Shenzhe, and I am holding Shui, our two children. When Li Zhixuan saw them, she guessed their identities, and a smile appeared on her cold face. She said, Zhixuan greets sister-in-law Jiayu. Then she took out 2 valuable spiritual objects from her storage bag. This is a little gift from me as an aunt. Brother Jiayu, please accept them for them. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows. It seems that she has gained a lot in the past few years of training outside. She just gave 2 third-level spiritual objects casually. But he didn't ask much, and said, then I will thank you on their behalf. Are you going to retreat to break through the golden elixir this time? A hint of gloom flashed across Li Zhirui's face. Before she came, she went to visit Li Shiking and Li Shilian, and learned from them that Li Zhirui had already formed a golden elixir. Although she looked calm and didn't seem to want to compete with her, deep down in her heart, she still wanted to compete with Li Zhirui. But so far, in the secret competition between the two, Li Zhirui has lost more than one. I haven't broken through the bottleneck yet. This time I came back mainly to eliminate the evil spirit and polish my heart. Li Zhirui's calm tone concealed a hint of unwillingness and helplessness. She has an excellent talent for swordsmanship. She was able to learn sword energy in the key training period. Now in the foundation building period, she has comprehended the sword heart. Her talent is strong. But there are gains and losses. Li Zhirui's cultivation aptitude is too poor. The speed of cultivation of the 4 spiritual root still drags down his cultivation speed. Li Zhirui didn't say anything after hearing this. He just said that if there is any problem, just come to him. He will stay in the family in the next few years and will not leave. He originally thought that after the war with the Taxa demon clan was over, he would go out to travel and find the Yuanying realm exercises of the Wanling Sutra and the whereabouts of the subsequent exercises. But who could have thought that there was an unexpected incident during the war, and Li Zhirui needed a long time just to recover from his injuries. Then, various things happened. Now that the 2 siblings were born, he had no time to go out. But this matter must be brought up to the front. After all, it is not easy to find the disciples of Wanlingman back then. Maybe there will be no results for decades. Before that, Li Zhirui must at least see the qualifications of the 2 siblings and deepen their impression of him, so that when he comes back, they will not recognize him. After Li Zhirui asked a few questions about cultivation, he stood up and prepared to leave, but at this moment, a communication talisman flew over. It was Li Shiking who notified him to go to the family hall, saying that there was something important to discuss. Do you want to go with me? Li Zhirui shook her head. She was not interested in these trivial matters, and Zhang Fengwu had to take care of 2 children in addition to this reason. Li Zhirui could only go to the hall alone, and all the senior members of the family had already arrived. Just now, the team guard in the secret realm sent a message that the secret realm has begun to penetrate the boundary membrane and will be born soon. Li Zhirui had just sat down when Li Shiking spoke up and dropped a big thunder. Is it the secret realm that the King Jian sect discovered back then? Li Shilian said with a smile. Yes, come to think of it, it was you who discovered it in the beginning. If Li Zhirui had not led the tribesmen to hunt water monsters back then, they would not have seen the strange phenomenon of the secret realm disappearing. Even if the secret realm was open this time, they could send people in, but how could it be better than monopolizing it? First lock the news and don't let other cultivators find out. When the secret realm is opened, even if they know it, it will be too late. It's not that the Li family is afraid of these small forces and independent cultivators, but they are worried that they will call the boss behind them, Shen Lishan, and then the Li family will go from being a monopoly to a marginal force. Then everyone discussed a lot, such as if the secret realm needs to bring something, how to gather at that time, and then act together. Brainstorming, everyone wrote down everything they could think of at the moment, and after some screening, they got the final answer. I don't know what level this secret realm is. It would be great if it was level 3, Li Zhirui muttered in a low voice. But it's easy to imagine that this is impossible. Otherwise, even if the King Jian sect had invested the entire sect in it, it wouldn't have gotten much, not to mention helping Yu Qing break through to the middle stage of the Golden Core. Soon, all the clansmen on Wangxin Island knew that a secret realm under the family's rule was about to be opened, and they all took action. Everyone was full of energy and showed their best side, hoping to enter the secret realm at that time. Although most secret realms are dangerous, there are also many opportunities. If they can get one of them, maybe they can make their cultivation go further. Time passed quickly, and soon it was the day when the secret realm was opened. In the past few days, the spiritual light emitted by the secret realm has become more and more dazzling. If the Li family hadn't arranged a concealing formation nearby, it would have been discovered by other cultivators long ago. Li Zhirui, Li Shiking, and Li Zhirui, 3 golden core cultivators, gathered here and used a special magic weapon, which looked like a puppet similar to a cultivator, to test the grade of the secret realm. Soon, the magic weapon was tested. As expected, it's a second-level secret realm. Li Zhirui sighed helplessly. This means that he can't enter the secret realm, and can only let the foundation building and key training clansmen enter, but no one knows how dangerous the secret realm is. If there are too many casualties, the Li family will suffer heavy losses. This secret realm will be handed over to you, Uncle Renan's Hexuan, Li Zhirui said to the two people beside him. You must also be careful. The two are the strongest among the family's foundation building cultivators, so naturally they will lead the action to ensure the safety of the clansmen. In fact, the Li family knows nothing about this secret realm except the location. After all, the Qingjian sect only explored it once, and perhaps left behind something like a map. But in the end it was either destroyed or fell into the hands of Yuan Mingzhuang. And Yuan Mingzhuang was divided into two early on, and the possible secret realm information should have been taken away by them. So they can only warn the clansmen to be careful. It is best to travel together, and then meet up with Li Zhirui and Li Zhixuan as soon as possible. At noon that day, a mysterious realm like a dream bubble appeared between heaven and earth, and then quickly dissipated, leaving only a wide open portal for the cultivators to pass through. Be careful and don't be greedy, Li Zhirui couldn't help but warn everyone again. This time, there were a total of 100 key training clan members and 10 foundation building clan members who entered the secret realm. Compared with other forces, this number is nothing, but in the Li family, if Li Zhirui and other giant and cultivators are excluded, it is already a large scale. Thank you for your support. Chapter 306 Enter. Everything that needed to be said had been told before, and because they were not sure when the secret realm would close, everyone quickly filed in as soon as the portal opened. I hope they can all come back alive, Li Zhirui muttered to himself. Perhaps there were precious spiritual objects in the secret realm, but compared to this, the lives of the clan members were more important, especially the foundation building cultivators such as Li Zhixuan. The family had invested a lot of resources to train them. If too many clan members died, the loss of the Li family would be a bit big. However, he knew in his heart that this was impossible, unless the Qingjian sect cleared all the dangers inside when the secret realm was opened last time. This secret realm should be opened once every 50 or 60 years, which is not too long. Li Zhixuan was silent for a moment and said, a few decades may be the life of a mortal, but for cultivators, it is not too long. Even if the key training cultivators do not die halfway, they can live to more than 100 years old. Speaking of which, have you heard any news about the boundary stone? Li Zhirui turned and looked at Li Chengmo. The boundary stone can be used to fix the secret realm, and then control the portal through the formation. Only with a boundary stone can the secret realm be operated, otherwise it can only wait for the secret realm to open by itself like the Li family. Since the Li family began to grow, they have been eyeing the secret realm of Guangqingzhou and have been trying to find out the whereabouts of the boundary stone. No, Li Chengmo gave the same answer as always. It's not disappointing, after all, Li Zhirui knows the preciousness of the boundary stone, and it is almost impossible for such a thing to circulate on the market, but he still couldn't help but sigh. After all, without the boundary stone, it is impossible to operate the secret realm, and there is no way to plant spiritual objects on a large scale and obtain resources. You know, the secret realm can convert spiritual energy from the outside world, that is, the so-called chaos, but it is limited by the grade and other reasons, and the conversion speed and efficiency are different. And the spiritual energy in the second-level secret realm, more than half of the land is richer than the second-level spiritual veins, and the rest can also be on par, at most slightly inferior. Although I don't know how big this secret realm is, according to the general situation, the second-level secret realm is at least 50 miles square. If you are lucky, it is not impossible to be nearly 100 miles. With such a large area, I don't know how many spiritual objects can be planted. Even if all of them are first-level spiritual medicines, you can make a lot of money. You know, on the huge Banyan Island, there are more than a dozen spiritual veins of various sizes, and the total area that can be used to plant spiritual objects is only 300 or 400 miles. And this, a large part of the territory cannot be opened up for spiritual fields, because it needs to be cultivated by many clansmen. But even so, the output of these spiritual fields is also the main pillar of the Li family's income. What's more, the secret realm is also a retreat for various forces. As long as the secret realm can be preserved, even if it is temporarily declining, it can rise again soon, unless hostile forces take the opportunity to act. The boundary stone is so rare, how did those big forces get it? Li Zhirui said with some curiosity. For them, it is not a simple matter to get the boundary stone, But for some big forces, they seem to have fixed ways and channels to obtain it. Except for a small part that was accidentally obtained by lucky cultivators, most of them were taken out by those big forces. Li Zhirui shook his head and said softly, maybe when we grow to that level, we will know the reason. No matter in which world, there is a monopoly of knowledge. If Li Shiking had not been able to break through the golden elixir, they would not have been able to obtain the foundation-building pill recipe and foundation-building elixir. Two flowers bloom, each with its own beauty. However, Li Zhixun, who had already entered the secret realm, had not yet woken up from the slight dizziness of the shuttle space, and she keenly noticed a gust of evil wind coming from behind her, accompanied by a strong stench. Clang! Li Zhixun sacrificed the spirit sword without hesitation, pressed it down from the top of her head to the back, and a huge force pressed down heavily. She rolled to the ground and escaped from the attack range of the monster in a panic. A monkey in the late second stage? Li Zhixun looked a little solemn. She was very confident in her strength. It was only the late second stage. There were not 1,000, but hundreds of them died in her hands. But the problem is that monkeys are social monsters. Squeak, squeak, squeak. As expected, with the scream of the monkey, there was a noisy sound in the nearby mountains and forests. The movement came from all directions. There were at least 10 or 20 monkeys. Li Zhixun did not run away because of this. Instead, a hint of fighting spirit ignited in her eyes. She didn't know, and didn't care about the tasks of other tribesmen. Her purpose of entering the secret realm was very simple, that is, to clear the monsters. This was a task specially customized for her by Li Zhirui. Its purpose was also very simple, that is, to hope that through the dangers in the secret realm, Li Zhixun could break the bottleneck as soon as possible. Moreover, the Li family wanted to develop the secret realm, and this was also a must. It was nothing for Li Zhixun to take action in advance. She sank her wrist and slashed out sharp sword energy at a very fast speed. They intertwined with each other to form a large net and spread in all directions. Suddenly, screams rang out one after another, as if forming a strange music score filled with killing and blood. However, the strength of this group of monkeys is not bad, otherwise it would not be possible to occupy such a large forest. Li Zhixun's attack just now only dealt with those first-level monkeys. Soon, several monkeys with bleeding wounds appeared and surrounded her, and then rushed up and stabbed Li Zhixun with their sharp claws. HMPH, Li Zhixun snorted coldly, and just waved her right hand lightly, and sword energy shot out, forcing them to stop attacking and defend against this extremely lethal sword energy. Boom! Suddenly, the place where Li Zhixun was located collapsed suddenly, stirring up smoke and dust, and it was impossible to see what happened inside. Then several huge rocks fell from the sky. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Several monkeys that looked more agile jumped out, shouting arrogantly, and there was even a bit of sarcasm in their voices. As if saying that this person's strength was not very good, and you were actually embarrassed by her, which really lost the face of the monkey clan. Unfortunately, these situations were shattered by a sword energy that soared into the sky, and then a golden light flew out from it, which was the trap Li Zhixun. The moves of sword cultivators are not only the forward-looking attacks, but also the escape methods, parrying methods, etc. She has also learned them very well. Moreover, she knows the methods of the monkey, so how could she not prepare in advance? Although Li Zhixun did not practice the Wanling Sutra, she was born in a beast control family, and was influenced by the surrounding environment. In order to better kill monsters, she has specially studied various monsters. Chapter 307 Baby. Soon, all the monkeys died under Li Zhixun's sword. After harvesting the spiritual materials on them, he began to look for the place where the monkeys lived to see if he could find any treasures. By the way, destroying all the monkeys can also reduce the difficulty of the family's development of the secret realm in the future. Following the direction of the monkeys, Li Zhixun soon found the cave where they lived. Smelling the stench coming from inside, Li Zhixun walked in with her sword without changing her face. She had been to places worse than this environment, let alone here. Besides, she could also block her 5 senses and not smell the stench. In an instant, a shrill scream sounded, and soon the sound subsided, but a strong smell of blood floated out. A group of elite monkeys went out hunting, leaving only 2 second-level monkeys in the cave. The others were either cubs or little monsters that had not yet grown up. How could they be Li Zhixun's opponents? Entering the deepest part of the cave, Li Zhixun's eyes suddenly lit up. She really found a treasure, a piece of third-level Zhuanghuang iron ore the size of a baby's head. In addition, there are some second-level spiritual ores with pits and pits, which should have been eaten by the monkeys, but not completely eaten. As a dual-line monster of earth and gold, the monkeys will eat spiritual ores to strengthen their bodies in addition to flesh and blood. The third-level Zhuanghuang iron ore can be preserved without loss, mainly because the monkeys can't chew it. More importantly, Li Zhirui can use this spiritual ore to add it to the refining of her life magic weapon. Zhuanghuang is endless. Any magic weapon that uses the third-level Zhuanghuang iron ore can self-repair a certain scale of damage. Li Zhirui collected all the spiritual ores without any disdain, then burned the cave with fire, and turned and left, but at this time, Li Zhirui was following the treasure-hunting rat running on the ground, rushing towards a certain place. This treasure-hunting rat is a spiritual beast that Li Zhirui signed with a master-servant contract, but because she is already a giant and cultivator and cannot enter the secret realm, she gave the treasure-hunting rat to Li Zhirui to facilitate a search for treasures. This is also Li Zhirui's arrangement. After all, the Li family does not have a boundary stone now, and it is impossible to develop the secret realm. It is better to collect a lot of treasures first, and then develop it when the Li family has a boundary stone and the secret realm begins to recover. Moreover, Li Zhirui did not exhaust the pond to catch fish. In addition to arranging Li Zhirui and others to find treasures and Li Zhirui and others to kill monsters, he also asked all the tribesmen to plant the spiritual seeds in the right place. This time when entering the secret realm, all the tribesmen brought a large number of spiritual seeds, a large part of which were accumulated by the Li family over the years, and some were secretly mixed by Li Zhirui. They were precious spiritual objects that were originally only available in this space, such as jinsei, which can increase the probability of giantan. In this way, the family can get precious spiritual seeds, and Li Zhirui can take out the spiritual medicine openly. Speaking of which, with a treasure-hunting rat leading the way, Li Zhirui did get a lot of spiritual objects in a short time after entering the secret realm. But the grade was not high. And seeing the treasure-hunting rat so excited this time, it must be a very precious spiritual object. But when Li Zhirui rushed over, he found out that he was wrong. There was no spiritual object in that place, but there was a silver-white treasure-hunting rat. Seeing this scene, Li Zhirui's mouth twitched uncontrollably for several times. He really didn't expect that he would see a fight between spiritual rats one day. After all, the two were dozens of miles apart. But this is also good. With a pair of treasure-hunting rats, the family can provide treasure-hunting rats for contracting in the future, but it seems that no one should be willing to contract a special spiritual beast like the treasure-hunting rat. After all, it is too troublesome to cultivate them into the second or even third level. With this energy and financial resources, it is more likely to directly cultivate a third-grade spiritual beast. Li Zhirui shook his head helplessly, but his hands did not move slowly. A residual image flashed by and he directly caught a treasure-hunting rat. After comforting Li Zhirui's treasure-hunting rat and letting it know that it was staying in the spirit beast bag, he let the treasure-hunting rat start the next treasure-hunting journey. It was strange to say that Li Zhirui had been in the secret realm for several days and obtained a lot of spiritual objects, but he did not encounter any powerful monsters. Their journey was dull and without any highlights. However, good luck has a time limit. No. The place where the treasure-hunting rat brought Li Zhirui this time was guarded by a second-level late-stage monster. He estimated the strength of both sides and felt that there was no problem in dealing with him. Moreover, the spiritual medicine it guarded was actually a third-level 100B dread stamen. As a formation master, his fighting method was a little different. He did not cast spells and magical powers, but directly laid formation flags around. With the help of the power of the formation, he quickly killed the monster. It seems that the strength of these monsters is not strong, Li Zhirui muttered to himself. Of course, compared to fighting, he wanted to obtain precious spiritual objects more, and he was old and had long lost the desire to fight and kill. As for the other tribesmen in various parts of the secret realm, the first thing they did was to find their companions and act together, and then look for spiritual objects while looking for Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui to join. But even so, many tribesmen, especially those with weaker strength, died on the road. However, some people got treasures and hid in a secluded place. Although everyone is from the same family and can be related to each other, money can move people's hearts. Who knows if they will have other thoughts when they see the treasure in his hand. So this person simply hid himself, and when the secret realm was opened, He went out directly. At the same time, outside, Li Zhirui was discussing the situation in the secret realm with Li Shiking and others. It has only been a few days, and more than 20 tribesmen have died. It seems that this secret realm is still quite dangerous, but if it is only this degree, the Li family can completely accept it, because the loss is not as great as they imagined. Let's see what happens later. If the casualties are not too large, then arrange some more tribesmen to go in. Li Shiking said after pondering for a moment. The secret realm will be opened twice. The first time is when it is completely out of the world, and the second time means that the cultivators inside can come out, and there are not many days left before the secret realm is closed. However, even if there are only a few days, a lot of spiritual objects can be collected. For this uncontrollable secret realm, the Li family naturally wants more, the better. Well, this is a good idea. Li Zhirui nodded and said, Zhirui, please go back to the family and tell Grandpa Yan and Cheng Mo about this matter, and let them make arrangements. Thank you for your support. Chapter 308 Harvest. Now the Li family controls thousands of miles of territory and dozens of spiritual veins. There are countless things to deal with every day. It is impossible for Li Chengmo and others to stay outside the secret realm. That is, Li Zhirui and the other two, with their current status, no longer need to deal with these trivial matters in person, and have enough free time, so they stayed here. Among them, Li Shiking is the elder, so he naturally cannot be bothered. Li Zhirui is the strongest, so he has to stay in case of accidents. Things like running errands naturally fall on Li Zhirui. But she didn't care. She walked straight out of the hidden formation, and turned into rainbow light and flew to Banyan Island. Soon, Li Zhirui returned to the family, asked Li Chengmo to gather the clansmen, and invited Li Shilian to come out to select the clansmen who would enter the secret realm together. Did the second brother say how many people would be arranged to go in this time? Li Shilian asked. Seeing Li Zhirui shaking her head, thinking back to the information she brought back, he pondered for a moment and said, since the secret realm is not very dangerous, let's arrange more tribesmen to go in, and let them plant the spiritual seeds at the same time when they collect the spiritual objects. In this way, when the secret realm is opened next time, they will be able to get a large number of first and second level spiritual medicines. As for third level spiritual medicines, the growth time is too long, and it is only a second level secret realm, which can only be barely planted. There is no spiritual energy exceeding the third level spiritual vein, and it is impossible to speed up the growth of spiritual medicines. Moreover, third level spiritual seeds are more precious, and it is impossible to let them grow wildly in such a crude way. Send 200 key training tribesmen and 15 foundation building tribesmen, Li Shilian added. Try to select some with strong combat effectiveness. Okay, Li Zhirui nodded to indicate that he had taken note, and then began to select tribesmen according to this requirement. Most of the tribesmen in the square knew the purpose of the families summoning them this time, and each of them looked expectant, hoping that they would be selected. You know, after entering the secret realm, except for some precious spiritual objects that are of great use to the family, which need to be handed over to the family and will be subsidized, other spiritual objects can be kept by yourself. Whether you sell them directly to the family or deal with them in any other way, it is up to you. Therefore, in the eyes of many clansmen, entering the secret realm is a great opportunity to earn spiritual stones. It's a pity that the number is limited. Even though Li Shilian has set 215 places, it is still too few for thousands of clansmen. 70% to 80% of the clansmen are unfortunately eliminated. After choosing the people, Li Zhirui did not stay in the family and said directly, give you half an hour to prepare, and you will set off directly when the time comes. If someone is late, a substitute can be found casually, and he is not necessary. But even so, when they arrived at the secret realm, it was still dark. Li Zhirui glanced at the crowd, without saying much, only said, you should rest first, conserve your energy. It will take a few days for the secret realm to open. In the next few days, Li Zhirui would take some time every day to instruct the tribesmen to practice, some of which were practice experience, and some were alchemy experience. Everyone didn't expect that there would be such a good thing, the personal guidance of Jindan Tenrun. You know, in the family, only those tribesmen with good qualifications have this opportunity, and they didn't expect that they would have such an opportunity. Li Zhirui didn't think so much. First, he felt that waiting was boring, and it was not convenient to practice and refine alchemy outside. Second, he also wanted to take this opportunity to verify what he had learned, which was considered to be a check for omissions. Seeing this, Li Shiking and Li Zhirui would occasionally open their mouths to instruct a few tribesmen. Although the number was not large, it could not extinguish their fiery enthusiasm. Some people even wanted the secret realm not to be opened so that they could enjoy the guidance of Jinden's Henren for a few more days. Of course, this is impossible. On the evening of the 5th day after their arrival, the portal of the secret realm opened again, and everyone entered in turn. After this opening, the portal will not disappear again until the secret realm is closed. Therefore, it will not be long before the first tribe member who leaves the secret realm will be welcomed. Sure enough, only 2 hours later, the portal suddenly flashed with light, and a tribe member who looked sneaky came out. Next, we have to check the storage bag, Li Zhirui said. Seeing the tribe member's happy face and coming out so anxiously, it is not difficult to know that he has obtained a treasure. In addition to checking the storage bag, he also scanned it from head to toe with his spiritual sense to ensure that no tribe member secretly hid precious spiritual objects. After all, the family's compensation is lower than the market price. It is possible that someone has other ideas and wants to sell the spiritual objects at a high price. If it is just like this, it is fine. After all, this is human nature. Who doesn't want to get more spiritual stones? It would be nice if it was just that simple. If there were too many precious spiritual objects hidden, it would definitely attract the attention of some people. Then they might guess that the Li family had discovered a secret realm. If Shenli Mountain knew about it, the Li family would have to give up at least 30% of the secret realm harvest, and the other party didn't have to do anything, and didn't even need to ask for it. The Li family would have to give it to them. You're lucky. Li Zhirui scanned the jade box in the storage bag with his spiritual sense and found a 3rd level spiritual medicine. Red flame fruit? It's quite precious. I can give you 6,000 contribution points. Do you want to sell the other spiritual objects to the family? The man's face was delighted. He didn't expect the value of this spiritual medicine to be so high. With such a large amount of contribution points, and borrowing some from the family, plus his previous accumulation, he could exchange it for a foundation building pill. No thanks, Grandpa. Li Zhirui put the jade box away, then flicked a jade token to him, saying, when you return to the clan, go to the mission hall to exchange it with a jade token. Gradually, more and more clan members came out of the secret realm. Some of them not only did not gain anything, but were in a very embarrassing situation. Some were lucky and got a lot of good things. The most noteworthy one was that a clan member of the Cheng generation actually got a precious 7-leaf scrofulary ace. Although it is also a 3rd level spiritual medicine, its value is not comparable to spiritual medicine such as the red flame fruit, because the 7-leaf scrofulary ace can strengthen the foundation and nourish the essence. It can not only enhance vitality, but also is the main ingredient of the 3rd level spiritual pill scrofulary ace. And the scrofulary ace pill is even more amazing. It can be said that among all the 3rd level spiritual pills, it increases the most mana. It is said that one scrofulary ace pill is equivalent to 2 Zingin pills. Of course, Li Zhirui has only seen the scrofulary ace pill in an ancient book, and he does not have the corresponding pill recipe, but things are in the hands of man. With a most critical spiritual medicine, are you afraid of not being able to get the pill recipe? So Li Zhirui was so happy that he directly gave that tribe member 15,000 contribution points. Chapter 309 Dragon and Tiger. However, because there were too many people from the clan, Li Zhirui lied to Li Chengyu and said that this was a pretty good 3rd level spiritual medicine. He gave 6,000 contribution points to avoid bringing disaster to this lucky little guy. The remaining 9,000 contribution points were quietly sent to Li Chengyu by Li Zhirui, and he explained the reason to him and asked him to pay attention. The reason why Li Zhirui did this was mainly because the child was unlucky. His biological mother died of illness. The next year, his father married a female cultivator. At first, the stepmother treated him well, but when she gave birth to a child and tested the same 3 spiritual roots, everything changed. In order to let her biological son go further, she began to treat Li Chengyu harshly, and even took away his family monthly tribute when Li Chengyu was young. Fortunately, it didn't take long before the teachers of Linghu Academy noticed something was wrong because his cultivation speed was too slow, so they exposed the matter. However, Li Chengyu's situation at home did not improve, mainly because his biological father was not a human being and beat him personally. It is natural for a father to beat his son. Although those relatives felt sorry for Li Chengyu, They couldn't always stand up for him. Later, Li Chengmo found out about this and took ruthless measures to rectify it. After clearing up some bad habits in the family, Li Chenggayu's situation became better. But perhaps it was this suffering that polished his tenacious character. Now, at the age of 30, he has reached the late stage of key training, and I don't know how much stronger he is than his younger brother. Thank you, Uncle Jiu. A warm current surged in Li Chenggayu's heart. Although 6,000 contribution points were not a small amount, the couple was afraid of the family and didn't dare to ask for it. But if it was 15,000 contribution points, they probably wouldn't care so much. You know, it only takes 50,000 contribution points to exchange a foundation building pill within the Li family, and this is about 30%. The couple has accumulated so much in most of their lives. How could they not be tempted? Practice well. Li Zhirui didn't say much. In fact, the family style of the Li family was already very good. Under the governance of Li Chengmo, at least there were no clichés such as bullying. If it were any other family or sect, after their rise, I'm afraid a large number of younger generations would become arrogant, just like a poor man who suddenly becomes rich and arrogant. As more and more clansmen came out of the secret realm, Li Zhirui was too busy to handle it alone, and Li Shiqing and Li Zhirui also had to help identify the price of spiritual objects. At the same time, in the secret realm, Li Zhixun hid behind a big tree, trying his best to restrain his breath, and peeked at a deep pool not far away, or more precisely, the treasure in the pool. In the middle of the pool, stood a strange piece of wood, without branches or leaves, pitch black, about 10 feet high, and on the top grew several light blue fruits that were about the size of a baby's fist. This tree is a third-level Zuanling tree, and its fruit is called Zuanling fruit. It can neither increase mana nor improve cultivation, but every time it comes out, it will be sought after by countless cultivators, and there will be bloody battles to compete for it. The reason is that this Zuanling fruit can help cultivators break through bottlenecks, and even has a certain effect on Yuanying cultivators. Of course, for someone like Li Zhixun who has broken through the bottleneck of a great realm, the Zuanling fruit will have no effect, otherwise the competition for this thing will be more intense and more terrifying. But even so, it is impossible to deny the preciousness of the Zuanling fruit. The reason why Li Zhixun is so careful is that there is a powerful monster in this deep pool. When she first discovered the Zuanling tree, she was attracted by a fierce fight. The two sides of the battle, one is the cold dragon in the deep pool, and the other is the black tiger in the forest. They are both perfect at the second level. If it were not for the restriction of the secret realm mana, they would have broken through the third level long ago. The fighting power is even stronger. Although it is only the second level, it gives Li Zhixun an illusion that it is a third-level monster fighting. She even feels that she is not the opponent of these two monsters. Fortunately, the strength of both sides is evenly matched. After a big battle, both were injured. The black tiger escaped into the forest and the cold dragon dived into the deep pool. They did not give up, but gathered their strength and prepared to compete with each other when the Zuanling fruit matures, and to decide life and death. After all, their shallow intelligence did not know that this was a secret realm. They thought that their cultivation was stagnant because they had not reached the requirements for a breakthrough. In their eyes, the Zuanling fruit, which contained a lot of spiritual energy, and the opponent's flesh and blood were the best breakthrough agents that could make them stronger. So this battle was inevitable. The reason why Li Zhixun hid was naturally to be a fisherman who benefited from it and personally experienced the strength of the winner. Whoosh, the wind is blowing. Along with it came a lot of spiritual energy, which was absorbed crazily by the Zuanling fruit. Gradually, a wisp of refreshing and fascinating fruit fragrance emerged and entered the black tiger's nose with a wind. Roar. With a roar in the forest, the black tiger walked out slowly like a king. Then a dragon roar came from the deep pool, and a slender cold dragon soared into the sky. As for the monsters that were lured by the fruit fragrance, after seeing these two, they turned around and fled without hesitation, as if they had seen the death god who was asking for their lives. The dragon came from the cloud and the tiger came from the wind. Both sides were fast. Although they were fighting with their bodies, they were so fast that they left a trail of afterimages of fighting. What a pity, they were born at the wrong time. Such a talented monster was born in the second-level secret realm. Unless someone takes them out, they will stop here for life, Li Zhixun thought silently in her heart. Thinking of this, an idea suddenly popped up in her mind. Maybe she could try to take them out of the secret realm? Li Zhixun thought that she was not their opponent, but there were 3 giant monks sitting outside the door. No matter how talented and powerful they were, they could not make any waves. Just as she was thinking about it, the black tiger suddenly opened its mouth and a trail of black shadows flew out. This was the spell that all tiger monsters would awaken, to serve the tiger. All the creatures that died in its hands could be refined into ghosts for it to drive. And over the years, the number of creatures killed by it was not 10,000, but 8,000. The minions were so dense that they looked like a black curtain. The bright daylight turned into pitch black night in an instant. Li Zhirui, who was hiding not far away, looked at the minions that had come in front of her. Her face changed, and she activated the 3rd level invisibility talisman that Li Zhirui gave her without hesitation. She disappeared without a trace in an instant. Li Zhirui showed a trace of helplessness on her face. She didn't expect that the black tiger had such a trick. If she had known earlier, she shouldn't have gotten so close and didn't have to waste a precious 3rd level talisman. Thank you for your support. Chapter 310 Surrender. After releasing many minions, the black tiger demon immediately gained the upper hand. The cold dragon was bitten and had wounds all over its body. It looked very embarrassed, and there was no trace of its previous majestic appearance. Li Zhirui, who was hiding not far away, felt a little strange. Her incomplete sword heart had warned her that the cold dragon was more terrible than the black tiger, but why was the situation reversed now? She didn't think there was something wrong with her sword heart, so there was only one possibility left, that the cold dragon was hiding its strength, lowering the black tiger's vigilance, and then killing it with one blow. Thinking of this, Li Zhirui became more wary of the cold dragon. Not only was it powerful, but it also seemed that its intelligence was much higher than that of ordinary 2nd level monsters. The development of things did not surprise her. The black tiger seemed to be pressing forward step by step, making the cold dragon in danger. There were several large bites on its body, and its breath was weak, as if it would die in the next moment. But as the black tiger got closer to the deep pool, Li Zhirui keenly noticed that the cold dragon quietly changed its posture, from the initial defense to the current fierce attack. Rumble. When the black tiger stepped into the deep pool for 5 feet, the cold dragon swung its tail violently, and columns of water shot up into the sky, forming a water curtain that trapped the black tiger. It has been 100 or 200 years since the cold dragon discovered this Zuanling tree. In order to protect this spiritual plant, it has long dug through the nearby underground and turned the area into its home. However, there has been no monster worthy of its trump card until this black tiger. Although the cold dragon is more powerful, it is not easy to win over the black tiger, and it is very likely to be seriously injured. In addition, the Zuanling fruit is about to mature. In order to ensure that there is no mistake and not to be picked up by other monsters, the cold dragon naturally has to use all its means to win this life and death battle. Although its current injuries are very serious, they are actually just superficial injuries. It will recover in a few days. Unfortunately, it didn't know that this was a secret realm, and it didn't know that the secret realm would be opened when the Zuanling fruit matured. Because of the water curtain, Li Zhirui couldn't see the situation inside clearly. Just listening to the collision of flesh and the painful tiger roar, it was not difficult to guess that the black tiger was the one who fell into the disadvantage, and the situation was very bad. Sure enough. Not long after, the tiger roar gradually became smaller, from anger to the final pleading, until it was completely silent. The black tiger demon is dead. Li Zhirui suppressed her desire to take action. Besides, the cold dragon was now protected by the water curtain, and she would not get any good if she rushed in rashly. Li Zhirui waited patiently for a moment, and the water curtain slowly fell, turning the area into a swamp. The cold dragon panted and lay on the ground, and as it swallowed and spit, the wounds on its body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. As for the black tiger demon, it has turned into a corpse, with a hideous face, and fell not far from the cold dragon. Seeing this scene, Li Zhirui no longer hesitated, and immediately mobilized his magic power to slash the cold dragon with his strongest sword. The sword energy rushed into the sky and shattered the smoke and clouds, and the sword light was sharp and cut the mountains and rivers. A sword energy that overwhelmed the sky, with a terrifying momentum of destroying everything, slashed towards the cold dragon. Roar! The cold dragon roared in fear. It didn't expect that it had killed the creatures in this forest for many years just to enjoy these spiritual fruits alone. But the black tiger suddenly came and fought with it, and now there is another powerful opponent. And the terrifying thing is that it doesn't even know where the opponent is. But its current situation is not enough to support the second fierce battle. Because the black tiger monster saw that the cold dragon was unwilling to let it go, and at the last moment, it really injured it with a dying blow. There was a trace of despair in the cold dragon's spiritual eyes. It couldn't block this sword at all. Even in its heyday, it would have to use all its strength to resist, and it might not be able to escape unscathed, not to mention that it had consumed most of its mana and was injured now. However, the cold dragon did not give up. It forced itself to stand up and used its remaining mana to condense a thick layer of black ice, trying to block Li Zhirui's shocking sword. Unfortunately, as soon as the sword energy came into contact with it, cracks appeared in the black ice, and in the blink of an eye, it collapsed into pieces. But at this moment, the cold dragon seized the opportunity to escape. It moved its body and jumped towards the deep pool. Unfortunately, it underestimated Li Zhirui's combat awareness. When she saw the cold dragon stand up, she knew it was going to escape. As soon as she took a wrong step, the whole person was like an arrow from a string, and the sword energy in her hand was lingering like silk and ran towards it. Li Zhirui changed her mind. Since she didn't kill it at the beginning, it would be better to subdue it and hand it over to the family after leaving the secret realm, which would also add a spiritual beast group with dragon blood to the family. You know, the evolution of dragon blood monsters is a road to heaven. They only need to constantly purify the dragon blood in their bodies to enhance their strength, upgrade their grades, and finally become real dragons. Of course, this process is not easy. Not to mention that purification requires a lot of time and a huge amount of mana. The disasters on the road to dragon transformation will only be more difficult than those of cultivators. And this evolutionary path does not only exist in the dragon clan, but also in the phoenix clan, the unicorn clan, etc. This is why Li Zhirui tirelessly cultivates the phoenix grass in space. As long as he can get a 4th level phoenix grass, he can let Zhao King produce a wisp of phoenix blood, thus embarking on the road of phoenix blood evolution. And Li Zhirui also has this confidence. With his help, Zhao King's phoenix blood will definitely increase, and slowly evolve towards the phoenix. Speaking of which, the cold dragon's move to escape into the deep pool was not only seen through by Li Zhirui, but also successfully stopped. Since you are lucky enough to escape, then come back to the family with me. You will live a happy and beautiful life then, Li Zhirui said lightly. Looking at the cold dragon that was tightly bound by her. Dragons are lustful by nature, and Jialong is even more so. She believes that the cold dragon will be very satisfied. However, how to take it out of the secret realm is a troublesome matter, because Li Zhirui is devoted to swordsmanship, and she is not practicing the Wanling Sutra, and she does not have a contracted spirit beast, so there is naturally no spirit beast bag on her. But then again, even if she has a spirit beast bag, it is not certain that she can collect this cold pool of more than 10 feet in size. I can only use my magic power to support it. Li Zhirui did not care too much, but it would just consume more magic power. Before the secret realm is closed, she can take the cold dragon out anyway. Then Li Zhirui stretched out her hand and pointed at the center of the cold dragon's eyebrows. A sword energy sank into the sea of consciousness. She only needed to move her mind to shatter its soul and take the cold dragon's life. In this way, there would be no need to worry about the cold dragon being disobedient. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Distribution. After dealing with all these things, Li Zhirui stayed by the Zuanling tree, patiently waiting for the Zuanling fruit to mature. Fortunately, she didn't have to wait too long. After just 1 hour, the fruits on the top of the tree turned from blue to black, which was the sign of maturity. Li Zhirui was quick and careful. She picked the Zuanling fruit carefully, put them into the jade box, and affixed the sealing talisman to ensure the efficacy as much as possible and prevent a loss of spiritual energy. Let's go. He used his magic power to transform into a big hand, and just carried the cold dragon towards the door of the secret realm. There were only a few days left before the secret realm was closed, and she had such a precious treasure as Zuanling beyond the existence of the cold dragon, so it was not very convenient to continue to clean up the monsters. On the other side, Li Zhirui left the secret realm with a full harvest. Uncle Ren, looking at the smile on your face, I think you have gained a lot. Li Zhirui smiled and joked. Li Zhirui did not shy away from it at all. His smile became even brighter. He said, "Thanks to Zhiu's treasure hunting rat, otherwise I would not have such a big harvest." After that, he poured out more than a dozen jade boxes from his storage ring, as well as some spiritual objects that were relatively large and could only be attached with a spirit sealing talisman. Li Zhirui looked at the treasures in front of him, which were flashing with spiritual light, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. He just took a rough glance and saw several third-level spiritual objects. He thought that Li Zhirui would bring out a lot of good things, but he never thought there would be so many. The reaction of Li Zhirui and others was the same, especially the younger generation. Looking at so many treasures, the expressions on their faces changed from shock to envy, which was very exciting. By the way, Zhiu, your spirit hunting rat also brought back an object. It looks like a mutant spirit hunting rat. Li Zhirui's face was a little complicated. In the future, the Li family will have another spiritual beast group. It's just that it's said that the reproduction of treasure hunting rats is more difficult. It's not a simple matter to breed a group. Thank you for your hard work, Uncle Ren, Li Zhirui said, but you brought back too many spiritual objects, and the contribution is worth calculating. The nearby clansmen who had already come out of the secret realm were more envious when they heard this. They actually had to spend time calculating the contribution value, unlike them, who could give an answer directly. After a moment, Li Zhirui gave a number that shocked everyone, 125,800 contribution points. Li Zhirui did not refuse. Although he had no descendants of Taoist partners, it cost a lot to deduce an experiment with formations. The most important thing was that he often sponsored some clansmen with better qualifications but more difficult families. He hoped that they could grow up faster and better and become the backbone of the family. It would be best if they could form a golden elixir and complete the regret of his and Li Zhiruy's life. A day later, an event that shocked everyone even more occurred. Li Zhirui walked out of the secret realm carrying a dying dragon. Is this a Jialong? Yes, it looks like a snake with 4 legs but no horns. It is undoubtedly a Jialong. A tribe member who is proficient in taming beasts paused, as if he was looking at it carefully. After a moment, he said, looking at the crystallized scales on its body, it should be a cold Jialong of a different species. It's a pity that this Jialong is already in the late second stage and can't be contracted anymore. This sentence expressed the thoughts of most tribe members. Although they knew that even if they could, it would not be their turn, but seeing such a precious Jialong unable to be contracted, they could not help but feel a little depressed. You are stupid. The cold Jiao can't be contracted, but its offspring can. Dragons are inherently lustful, and Jialongs are even better. Are you still afraid that there will be no dragon blood spirit beasts in the future? Li Zhirui and others ignored the tribe members' discussions and only asked Li Zhirui about the process. There was nothing to hide, so she told him everything, and finally transmitted the message. In addition to this dragon, I also found a Zuanling tree in the secret realm, and picked a few Zuanling fruits. What? Li Zhirui, who did not lose his composure even when he saw Li Zhirui take out so many spiritual objects, stood up suddenly after hearing this message, which was very abrupt. This also made everyone imagine, could it be that Li Zhirui got other treasures? And it must be a particularly precious spiritual object, otherwise it would not be enough to make Li Zhirui so excited. Zuanling fruit, a precious spiritual fruit that can help cultivators break through bottlenecks. How can Li Zhirui not be excited? What made him even more excited was the Zuanling tree. With a spiritual tree, the family can harvest Zuanling fruits continuously in the future. Perhaps because of the successive attacks of Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui was lazy in the following identifications and did not see any precious or strange spiritual objects. A few days later, the secret realm was completely closed, and all the clan members inside came out. There were a total of 325 people in the two groups, including 25 foundation building monks, and the rest were all key training clan members. Only 263 people came out of the secret realm, which means that 62 people stayed in it forever, including 4 foundation building monks. Although the fallen clan members were heartbreaking, everyone had expected it. After all, it was impossible for all of them to come out alive. And the casualty rate was already very low, only 1/5. If it were changed to other secret realms, it might not be 1/10. Because there were many people, 2 spirit ships were divided on the way back, and soon they landed on Banyan Island one after another. Ordinary clan members naturally dispersed, and Li Zhirui and others still needed to hold a meeting to determine the ownership of some spiritual objects. Those third-level spiritual objects were naturally all put into the family's warehouse. What needed to be discussed was the coal dragon and the 6 mysterious spirit fruits. That coal dragon is about to break through, right? I'll trouble Grandpa Yan to sign a contract with it, Li Zhirui said first. After it breaks through, it will also be a fighting force. The coal dragon that is about to break through the third level is not something that a foundation-building cultivator can suppress, even if a master servant's contract is signed. It may even be turned into a guest by the other party. Then it can only be handed over to the 4 golden elixirs of the family. Li Zhirui doesn't want it. Li Zhirui was busy taking care of her spirit beast and preparing for the breakthrough of the third level. She has no time at all. Li Shiking's lifespan is not much, and he is unwilling to contract such a precious spirit beast. Only Li Shilian is left, and he is also proficient in beast control, which is more suitable. Okay, Li Shilian did not refuse. And then, it's time to divide the Zuanling fruit. As the discoverer of this thing, Li Zhixuan naturally got a Zuanling fruit, but it's a pity that she is now going to cross a great realm, and the Zuanling fruit can't help to break through the bottleneck. Of the remaining 5 spiritual fruits, Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui each received 1, and the other 3 will be sealed up and will be rewarded with a mysterious spiritual fruit when another golden elixir cultivator is born in the family. Thank you for your support. Chapter 312 Excuse. With all the gains in the secret realm this time, the Li family's development speed has once again become much faster. Of course, this is just an inducement. The main reason is that more and more people with spiritual roots are born in the Li family. In addition, after entering the secret realm, most of the people who survived have made progress in their cultivation. Li Zhirui took a 7-leaf Scrophularia ginseng seed that he secretly withheld and entered the space, ready to use the power of the space to cultivate a large number of Scrophularia ginseng as soon as possible. After all, if it depends on the family alone, it will take many years to refine Scrophularia ginseng pills. If he didn't get Scrophularia ginseng, Li Zhirui would not be thinking about it. After all, this precious spiritual medicine will definitely be firmly held in the hands of various major forces, and he can't get spiritual seeds no matter how much he wants. But who let the heaven favor him, and let people get a mature Scrophularia ginseng in the secret realm? Li Zhirui, who has a space to rely on, naturally doesn't want to miss such a good opportunity. Although it is impossible to take it out openly, it is also good to take it secretly in private to speed up his cultivation. After burying a large number of spiritual stones near the ginseng, Li Zhirui no longer worried about this matter, but thought about how to get the recipe of Zuanshan pill from Nanya Chamber of Commerce without attracting attention. Zhang Fengwu, who had just put the 2 children to bed, came out and saw him frowning in thought. He couldn't help but ask, I heard that the family has made a lot of gains this time. Why are you still frowning? Didn't you get a Zuanshan? I'm thinking about how to get the recipe from Nanya Chamber of Commerce. Li Zhirui would not hide anything from his bedmate except the 2 big secrets of time travel and space. If he asked to buy it directly, the other party might notice it and guess that the Li family got the Zuanshan spirit seed, because there was almost no trace of Zuanshan on the market. After all, the effect of Zuanshan pill was too good, and those big forces were unwilling to take out the good things. Zhang Fengwu, who had married into the Li family for many years, naturally knew the private connection between the Li family and Nanya Chamber of Commerce. As soon as she heard what Li Zhirui said, she understood what he was worried about. After thinking for a while, she smiled and said, you can mix a few more recipes in, and say that you need to learn from them in order to create a new recipe. Li Zhirui's eyes lit up immediately, and he stood up and hugged her. Fengwu, you are still smart. As for why he wanted to create a new recipe? Of course, it was because he couldn't get too many 3rd-level spirit seeds, so he could only develop them on his own from the existing ones. And the statement is not that abrupt. Many high-level alchemists would do this. One is to improve their alchemy level, and the other is to hope to become famous through the recipe. There was once a 3rd-level alchemy master who was famous for creating an auxiliary spirit pill that could improve the efficacy of medicine. Therefore, he was invited by a major force and became an elder. It is said that he later broke through the nascent soul with the help of that force. However, Li Zhirui did not plan to do so, because it would take a lot of time and spirit stones. Before, he spent many years and millions of spirit stones to deduce the 3rd-level Bakao pill. And this is because he has space to speed up the growth of spiritual medicine, which helps Li Zhirui save a lot of time and spiritual stones, otherwise the cost will be even greater. Moreover, he is still deducing and perfecting on the existing basis. Now he is asked to construct a pill formula out of thin air. Li Zhirui feels that he does not have that ability. Li Zhirui's ability to refine pills is good, but that is because he has enough spiritual medicines and a little talent of his own, which is slowly polished from failure. In fact, to put it bluntly, he is not one of those alchemists who delve into the way of alchemy, but a cultivator who refines pills to speed up cultivation. However, it is no problem to deceive outsiders. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, Li Zhirui is a veritable alchemy genius. Speaking of which, Zhang Fengwu was a little shocked by Li Zhirui's behavior. When he came to his senses, he blushed and wanted to break free from his arms. Li Zhirui looked down and saw her delicious appearance with red skin and shy eyes. He couldn't help but lower his head and gently bid her earlobe. Fengwu, I haven't practiced with you for many days, and my husband's cultivation has slowed down a lot. The deep voice was filled with lust. It's still daytime. Zhang Fengwu was so shy. But Li Zhirui didn't give her a chance to object. He just picked her up by the waist and strode towards their room. The soft hum of her voice disappeared in an instant with a flash of light. The next morning, Li Zhirui came out with a refreshed look on his face, went to see the brother and sister who were still sleeping, and said to Zhang Fengwu, who was still resting in the room, Shenzhe and the others are still sleeping, you should rest for a while. Zhang Fengwu, who had been tossing for most of the day, no longer had the strength to answer. She closed her eyes and fell asleep in a short while. When the sun was high in the sky and Li Zhirui had fed the two brothers and sisters, she woke up slowly. I will never play with you again next time. Fortunately, the two children were still young, otherwise it would be really embarrassing. Li Zhirui naturally agreed well on the surface, but he had other ideas in his heart. The couple played with the child for a day before Li Zhirui set off to Qingshan Prefecture to find the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. What a rare guest, the head shopkeeper pretended to be surprised and said, what went Blue Brother Li here? He was a little curious. Although they had been doing business for many years, he was not familiar with Li Zhirui, mainly because Li Zhirui rarely showed up and the two had rarely met. I have something to ask you for your help, I hope you won't refuse. The chief shopkeeper naturally wouldn't agree without even listening to the matter, and smiled and turned a blind eye. Dao Ali, just say it directly, as long as I can help, I will never refuse. Dao, you also know that the Li family is lucky, so several Jinden were born, but after all, the development time is too short, it can be said that there is no foundation. Li Zhirui said bitterly, don't look at me. I have broken through the middle stage of Jinden, but that is because the elders saved their own cultivation resources, so they pushed me, who has mediocre qualifications, to the top, but now, because I have taken too many Zhenyin pills, my body has developed drug resistance, and my cultivation has not improved for a long time, so I thought about changing to other elixirs, but I don't have any spiritual seeds or elixir recipes, so I can only think of other ways. The chief shopkeeper vaguely figured out Li Zhirui's idea, but he was not in a hurry to say it, and only agreed, I don't know what method you are talking about, you know, fellow Taoist, I can achieve what I have today thanks to the strong support of my family, and this is because I have some talent in alchemy. A hint of pride flashed across Li Zhirui's face, and he said, so I thought about creating my own alchemy formula, so that I can solve my problem. Chapter 313 Leaving Home. If you are lucky, you might be able to spread your fame, just like the third-level alchemist who was favored by a powerful force and became a Yuaning's engine. A trace of disdain flashed across the eyes of the chief shopkeeper. He finally knew why the Li family did not allow this alchemist to walk outside. It turned out that he was a fool. He was actually dreaming. The story of the third-level alchemist was true, but the widely circulated version lacked a very important premise, that is, he not only came from an alchemy family, but also he had a pair of Yuaning parents who were fourth-level alchemists, and his own talent in alchemy was also top-notch. But even with such excellent conditions, he spent decades to create such a brilliant elixir, and became famous all over the world and was valued by a powerful force. As for why the chief shopkeeper had this impression of Li Zhirui? Because his image in the outside world was very vague. This was intentional by the Li family and himself. They did not want Li Zhirui to be too conspicuous. Therefore, he had a persona in the outside world, that is, a master of alchemy with good alchemy talent. The cultivation geniuses such as the 100-year golden elixir were either deliberately concealed by the Li family, or as time passed, Li Zhirui rarely showed up and was forgotten by everyone. Of course, if you investigate carefully, you can still find out. After all, the Li family does not have such great power to completely cover up past deeds. It's just that the Li family is on the territory of Shanli Mountain, and Shanli Mountain did not allow Nanya Chamber of Commerce to do business in the territory in order to obtain the nascent soul perception. Even with Yanli's engine, they did not break this promise. After all, Zhuangfa Pavilion is not easy to mess with. Therefore, Nanya Chamber of Commerce does not have too many people in the territory of Shanli Mountain, so naturally they can't find out too much information. Although he despised Li Zhirui in his heart, the shopkeeper did not show it on his face. At the same time, he also understood the reason why Li Zhirui came in person, and said with admiration, "Dao have lofty ambitions, I admire you, I wonder if my Nanya Chamber of Commerce can help you." He could see that Li Zhirui came to buy some third-level pill recipes for reference. The shopkeeper did not refuse or think much about it, because it was a normal thing. He had encountered it before when he was in Nansao. Besides, the spiritual medicines on those pill recipes were not easy to collect, especially the main medicine, which almost never had spiritual seeds for sale. On the contrary, through this matter, Nanya Chamber of Commerce could make a lot of money. After all, they could copy pill recipes at will, and the current cost was the jade slip that carried the pill recipe. The price of the jade slip was only a few spirit stones. And a third-level pill recipe cost at least tens of thousands of spirit stones, and the profit was ridiculously high, thousands of times, or even tens of thousands of times. Yes, Li Zhirui smiled and stated the purpose of his trip. "I want to buy a few third-level pill recipes for reference and study. Dao can choose one yourself." As he said that, the shopkeeper handed over a jade slip and said, "It details the effects of various third-level pill recipes, and also marks the difficulty of refining." Li Zhirui nodded and immersed himself in it. Soon he found the recipe of Zuanshan pill and memorized several other pill recipes. The rest of the time was spent memorizing other pill recipes. Although it was just an overview, the Li family was relatively lacking in this aspect, so he naturally did not want to miss this opportunity to enrich the family's Sutra Pavilion for free. About an hour later, Li Zhirui looked up with a tangled face, and after a long time he said, "Qingyan pill, Lingrong pill, Zuanshan pill." He mentioned a total of 8 third-level pill recipes, and Zuanshan pill was not too eye-catching among them. The shopkeeper pondered for a while, and did not realize that Li Zhirui had other purposes, so he nodded and agreed. While asking someone to get the pill recipe, he prepared the soul jade slip to ensure that the pill recipe would not be leaked. Half an hour later, Li Zhirui quietly left the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, but his heart was filled with excitement. He got the recipe for the pill. He also got the Zuanshan. He just needed to gather the other spiritual medicines, and after a while, when the Zuanshan matured, he could start to refine the Zuanshan pill with outstanding effects. After returning to Banyan Island, Li Zhirui told Li Shiking and others about this matter. He reported this to them before leaving the family, and they nodded in agreement, but they didn't expect the effect to be so good. "How many spiritual stones did you spend in total?" "The family will return it to you," Li Shiking said happily. Li Zhirui shook his head. These pill recipes all used the soul jade slips, and it was impossible to pass them on to others. Moreover, he bought the Zuanshan pill mainly for himself, so there was no need to let the family spend money, so he refused this matter. Seeing that he was determined, Li Shiking stopped persuading him and waved his hand to let him go back to rest. And Li Zhirui, who got the pill recipe, how could he have the mind to rest? He studied the pill recipe all day long, and even rarely participated in the double activities to increase his cultivation. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, several months had passed. "Sure, call Daddy." Li Zhirui looked at the little person in his arms with a doting face. Li Changshu waved his white lotus-like hands happily and called vaguely, "Daddy." Although the brother and sister are not even 1 year old yet, they can already call people and walk slowly. It's just that the personalities of the brother and sister are completely opposite to the vision when they were born. The elder brother Li Changshen, who was born in the arms of the sun, is not passionate, but a cold and aloof gailing flower. The younger sister Li Changshu, who was born in the arms of the moon, is not cold and aloof, but a cheerful and lively little sun. For this reason, Li Zhirui also privately asked Zhang Fengwu to confirm again whether the vision of the birth of the two brothers and sisters was wrong. Knock knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Li Zhirui held Li Chengxiu and opened the courtyard door, but Li Zhixuan, who was supposed to be in seclusion, appeared here. Zhixuan? Are you leaving the family? Looking at her attire, it is not difficult to guess what she is going to do. Ninth brother, I plan to continue to go out for training and look for an opportunity to break through the golden elixir, Li Zhixuan said with a faint smile. Yes, Li Zhixuan, who everyone thought could break through, has not yet broken through the bottleneck, and has not even felt any signs of loosening. So she stayed in the family for a few months, and after clearing the evil spirit from her body, she was ready to go out again and embark on the journey of forming the golden elixir. Li Zhirui knew that Li Zhixuan would not change her decision because of other people's persuasion, and said with a faint smile, then I wish you smooth sailing, all your wishes come true, a breakthrough soon, and a safe return, but no one could have imagined that Li Zhixuan would be gone for 100 years. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 314 Death. Li Zhixuan left Wangxin Island early one morning. When she set foot on the land of King Shan's Hao, she realized that she had not decided where to go. After thinking for a moment, she decided to go west, across thousands of mountains and rivers, to the central region with the highest level of cultivation. It is rumored that in ancient times, an immortal from outside the domain descended on this world, and the place where he appeared and preached was the central region. Therefore, the central region is also called the ancestral home of all the ways, and the spiritual energy is very rich. It is jointly controlled by several powerful forces of transformation, and does not give the forces of transformation from the other four regions a chance to come in. After all, the area of the central region is not large, and it is already very difficult to accommodate them. How can other forces come in to divide their territory? Zuanian realm is just a small world, and the upper limit of cultivation is transformation. If you want to go further and break through the refining void, you must ascend to leave this world and go to the middle world, or go all the way and go directly to the big world. It depends on how you choose. The middle world is safer and more stable, but the big world has more opportunities, but it is also more dangerous. Speaking of which, after Li Zhixuan made up her mind, she drove the spirit boat westward. She flew very fast in the territory of Shanli Mountain, but once she passed it, she slowed down. It was mainly because she was familiar with the territory of Shanli Mountain, and there was no place for training, so she naturally didn't want to stay and waste time. Of course, Li Zhixuan also met some blind monks on the way. She never showed mercy to those who wanted to attack her. In the flash of cold light, they lost their lives. After a month of long journey, Li Zhixuan finally walked out of the familiar place and entered Hongguyang's Hao. Two flowers bloomed, each showing its own beauty. Li Zhixuan's departure was like a stone falling into the lake, which soon disappeared after a ripple. After all, for Li Zhirui and others, separation was a normal thing. I have given you all I have learned in my life, and I hope you will not disappoint me, the aging Li Zhirui said to Zhang Fengwu in a soft voice. Looking at the female cultivator in front of him, Li Zhirui was very satisfied, because Zhang Fengwu's talent in formation was really amazing. Even if she was pregnant and gave birth to a child, it only took a few years to empty his life experience. The key is that she did not swallow it whole, but mastered all what she learned and integrated it. And what Li Zhirui was looking forward to was to see with his own eyes the third-level formation Starlight Mountain and River formation that he deduced. Uncle Ren, don't worry, I'm already preparing materials and refining the formation flag. Zhang Fengwu knew that Li Zhirui's lifespan was not much. If she didn't hurry up, I'm afraid he would die with regret. Okay, Li Zhirui showed a trace of excitement on his face, and hurriedly said, then you go and get busy, don't worry about me. Zhang Fengwu did not refuse, and said goodbye and left. In the next few months, she was busy refining the formation flag, and she didn't even take care of Li Chengsheng and his sister, and left the responsibility of taking care of the twins completely to Li Zhirui. Take a break. You haven't had a break for several days, Li Zhirui said helplessly, looking at Zhang Fengwu, who was tired. He thought that he had forgotten to eat and sleep, and was immersed in one thing, which was exaggerated enough. He didn't expect that there were people who were more powerful than him. No, I only have the last flag left to refine. It will be successful in a few days. Zhang Fengwu shook his head and refused without hesitation. Li Zhirui had expected this, so he brought Li Changsheng and Li Changshuo with him this time. Facing the children, she couldn't be hard-hearted at all, and finally followed the father and son to leave the quiet room. After a day of rest, Zhang Fengwu, who was full of energy, entered the quiet room again. She would not come out again before the flag was refined. Fortunately, she was lucky. She succeeded after only one failure. But setting up the clan protection formation is different from other formations. It is a very troublesome thing, and it requires finding dragon points. This time, Zhang Fengwu not only did not become relaxed, but became busier. He was at home before, but now he didn't come back at all. Such hard work will always be rewarded. A few months later, a brand new clan protection formation slowly rose up, completely encompassing the clan land that had already expanded a lot. Zhirui, test the strength of this formation, Zhang Fengwu shouted with his eyes shining. Li Zhirui thought for a moment and used 50% of his strength to test it, but he didn't expect that the formation didn't fluctuate at all. Huh? Li Zhirui couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. He had tested the clan protection formation before. The same attack fell, and the previous formation had already fluctuated. You can be bolder. I need to know the limit of this formation. Li Zhirui heard this and naturally would not hold back. He immediately burst out with all his strength, and used various moves such as Shumu Shenggong and Qianling to bombard the formation. Although the formation shook, it was still strong, but the spiritual light was slightly dimmed. This defense is really terrifying, Li Zhirui said from the bottom of his heart. Zhang Fengwu smiled. The reason why there was such a good effect was all thanks to Li Shiren's momentary inspiration. Because he himself had not broken through the golden elixir, he could not set up a third-level formation, but he was unwilling to give up, so he planned to set up a third-level formation in an opportunistic way. After thinking about it, he felt that only with the help of the power of heaven and earth could he achieve what he wanted. Then slowly, he created this Starlight Mountain and River formation. Normally, it absorbs the power of starlight to maintain the daily operation of the formation and relieve the pressure of the spirit vein. The mountains and rivers are the reason why the formation is stable, because it can transfer the attack power and relieve the pressure of the formation. Good. Before I die, I can see the third-level formation I created with my own eyes. I will die without regrets. Li Shiren laughed heartily, looking particularly happy. No one interrupted him, but if you look closely at the expressions in the eyes of Li Zhirui, Li Shiking and others, you will find a trace of sadness. Fengwu, thank you for fulfilling the wish of an old man like me. You have worked hard during this period. Li Shiren also saw Zhang Fengwu's hard work during this period. But he did not speak for his own selfish reasons. I have no children in my life. After I die, if you don't mind, all those things will belong to you. This is what Li Shiren did, the best way to compensate. On the third day after the formation was set up, Li Shiren's life card suddenly broke. His death was so sudden, but not unexpected, as if everyone had guessed it long ago. So far, except for Li Shiking and Li Shilian, the two elders of the Shi generation, the oldest generation in the family is Li Zhirui and his generation. There are still a few hundred words left to write for the next chapter, so I'll post it first and revise it later. Chapter 315 5 years. After Li Shiren died, Li Zhirui was depressed for a long time, just like when Li Shiting died. Li Zhirui was impulsive and almost went crazy, although he was not so exaggerated. But the relationship between the two was no worse than that between Li Shiting and Li Zhirui, so for a long time, Li Zhirui was very depressed and had no intention of doing anything else. Fortunately, life has to go on, and life has to look forward. With the company of Zhang Fengwu, Li Changshuo and Li Changshen, he recovered quickly. The first thing Li Zhirui did after his recovery was to continue to comprehend the Zuanshan pill formula and strive to refine the Zuanshan pill as soon as possible. However, he was not as sleepless as before. He would take some time every day to accompany Li Changsheng and Li Changshuo. Because they are getting older now and have begun to remember things, they will naturally not be seen for a long time, so as not to be forgotten by their children. Time passed by so plainly. It was not until 2 years later that Li Zhirui's contracted spirit beast broke through the third level. After consolidating her cultivation, she proposed to go out for training. Li Shiking and Li Shilian were afraid that she was going to the unicorn tribe to seek revenge, so how could they dare to let her go? Even if she repeatedly assured them, they did not believe it. But in fact, Li Zhirui really did not want to seek revenge. After so many years, the hatred in her heart did not disappear, but she became much calmer. She knew that she was just an ant. If she really wanted to find the unicorn, not only would she not be able to seek revenge, but she would also fall into the abyss and even implicate the Li family. In the end, Li Zhirui had no choice but to ask Li Zhirui for help, hoping that he could help persuade the two elders to let her go out for training. After all, she had been staying in the family, and the scenery was the same back and forth, and Li Zhirui was really tired of it. Besides, she was also motivated and wanted to go further, so she naturally did not want to stay in the family. After listening to Li Zhirui's complaint, Li Zhirui couldn't help but chuckle. He could see that Li Zhirui didn't lie. After thinking for a while, he said, "Then I'll go with you." When Li Shiking saw Li Zhirui bringing Li Zhirui over, he knew that she had not given up and even found helpers. He immediately said, "I don't agree with you going out, second grandfather, you are a bit too much. Zhirui wants to go out to gain experience and improve herself. Why are you stopping her?" Li Zhirui talked for a long time before convincing Li Shiking. But he also had a request, that is, Li Zhirui couldn't go to trouble the unicorn whale, at least not this time. "Thank you, Brother 9, Li Zhirui said happily. She knew that Li Zhirui could do it. Li Zhirui shook his head and said with a smile, "Since you are planning to go out for training, I will remind you in advance, so that I won't be doing other things when you leave." In the past 2 years, Li Zhirui has accumulated enough Zuanshan and found all the spiritual medicines for Zuanshan pill. He can't wait to refine Zuanshan pill. Looking at the various spiritual pills he took out, Li Zhirui hurriedly stopped him. "Brother Jiu, that's enough. Don't forget that I am also an alchemist. Although I am not as good as you, I still have some real skills. You should keep these spiritual pills for yourself." After saying that, he ran away in a hurry, as if someone was chasing him. Li Zhirui smiled helplessly when he saw that she was unwilling to accept it, but seeing that she was unwilling to accept it, at least he stopped thinking about it. Not long after, Li Zhirui left Banyan Island. She was going to go to the south for training. And not long after she left the family, Li Chengru also wanted to go out to find an opportunity to form a pill. The family had no intention of stopping this situation and agreed very happily. However, the elders, Li Zhirui, gave some good things in private. They even wanted to give more clansmen like Li Chengru. Unfortunately, apart from him, there was no other junior who was expected to break through in a short period of time. Time flies, and a few years have passed. This year, the foundation building spiritual medicines that the Li family has carefully cared for decades have matured one after another. When this news spread, not only were many clansmen of the Li family happy and excited, but also the vassal forces in Yunpingzhao and Guangqingzhao were happy, because in this way, they could easily get the foundation building pill. Especially those forces that had been promised by the Li family and qualified to buy the foundation building pill were both excited and worried. They were excited that they could get the foundation building pill and their strength would be further improved, and they were worried that the Li family had forgotten about this matter or did not intend to fulfill it at all. "I'll have to work hard for you, Zhirui." Li Shilian patted Li Zhirui on the shoulder. There were dozens of mature foundation building spiritual medicines, which was not too much, but not too little either. It would take Li Zhirui a lot of time. Over the past few years, Li Zhirui's alchemy skills have become increasingly advanced. After all, the elixirs he refines are a very important source of income for the family, and he has hardly stopped refining elixirs. And under his efforts, Zuanshan pill was successfully refined. Its effect is much stronger than Xingyan pill, and the speed of cultivation has increased a lot. However, there are many explanations for the origin of Zuanshan pill. So far, Li Zhirui can only take it secretly. So now it is not difficult for Li Zhirui to refine the foundation building pill. The success rate is basically 80%, and occasionally with good luck, he can get 9 foundation building pills. He spent more than half a month to refine 50% of the family's foundation building spiritual medicines into foundation building pills, and obtains nearly 100 foundation building pills. As for the remaining spiritual medicines, let them continue to grow. After all, no matter how well the foundation building pills are sealed, the efficacy will still fade over time. With enough foundation building pills, the Li family not only fulfilled their previous promises, but also held a small auction and successfully harvested a wave of spiritual stones from those vassal forces. In the past few years, a major event happened in the Li family. The cold dragon that Li Zhirui brought out from the secret realm successfully broke through the third level not long ago, and its bloodline evolved and became more like a real dragon. Since then, the cold dragon has lived a happy life. They have been working hard for the Li family to have a group of dragon blood spirit beasts. At the same time, Li Shengsheng and Li Changshu, two siblings, have turned 5 years old and contest their spiritual roots. However, because he was worried that the twins' qualifications were too good, Li Zhirui had already prepared for a private test. He also thought of the reasons for the family side, saying that they were anxious to know the qualifications of the two children, so they tested them in advance. If the qualifications were too good, Li Zhirui would cover it up to avoid attracting the covetousness of Shinli Mountain. On the day of testing the twins' spiritual roots, the people watching on the side, in addition to Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu's parents, were only the two elders Li Shiqing and Li Shilian. Li Zhirui held the spirit measuring ruler, feeling uneasy. He was worried that all his previous speculations were bubbles. In fact, the qualifications of the two children were not good, and they didn't even have spiritual roots. Sorry, those who have subscribed, please refresh the page to see the modified content. Chapter 316 Reluctance. Zhang Fengwu, Li Shiqing, and Li Shilian did not react much better. Instead, Li Changshen, the little guy, said calmly, "Dad, let's start the test." Li Zhirui exhaled a long breath, and condensed his magic power into a thin needle. He forced a little blood from Li Chengsheng's fingertips and dripped it onto the spirit measuring ruler. Buzz! In an instant, the spirit measuring ruler glowed with spiritual light, and the whole body turned red, and the spiritual light was dazzling. Yang's spiritual root. Li Zhirui showed a trace of surprise on his face. His son's aptitude was really so outstanding. Not only is he an alien spiritual root, but he is also a heavenly spiritual root. Zhang Fengwu and the other two were full of joy in their eyes, and their hearts finally fell back to their original place. "Dad, there is still a little white light at the end," Li Changshu said in a baby voice. Li Zhirui was stunned, and looked carefully, only to find that there was indeed a little dim cold white spiritual light at the end of the spirit measuring ruler. Zhang Fengwu and the other two froze. Although this spiritual light was very small, perhaps not even 1%, its existence meant that Li Chengsheng was not a natural spiritual root. But Li Zhirui, who had reacted, grinned and said, "This is a good thing. Yin alone cannot produce, and Yang alone cannot grow. If Shenzhe is really a natural Yang spiritual root, it would be a bad thing, at least for the Li family. There is no way to solve the disadvantages of the natural Yang spiritual root." The three suddenly realized, and then looked at Li Changshu thoughtfully. Li Zhirui touched Li Chengsheng's head and reminded him, "In the future, you will say that you have both fire and wood spiritual roots. Do you understand?" "Okay." Li Zhirui was used to this son who looked cold. He smiled, cleaned up the spirit ruler, and tested Li Changshu's spirit root in the same way. This time, there was no mistake. Although the spirit ruler was filled with a thick moon-white color, the red spiritual light was very conspicuous. Shuer's aptitude is also very good. Seeing the big watery eyes looking at him, Li Zhirui chuckled and said, "You have the dual spiritual roots of ice and fire. Remember, the reason why the two people's true spiritual roots are concealed is not only because Yang's spiritual roots and Yin's spiritual roots are rare, but more importantly, these two spiritual roots are the best cauldron embryos." Li Zhirui doesn't want anyone to covet the twins' bodies in the future. After all, no matter how good their aptitude is, it takes time to grow up. Although Li Shiqing was a little disappointed that the brother and sister were not natural spiritual roots, their aptitude was good enough, and they also had birth anomalies, which was not worse than natural spiritual roots. "Leave the family to us, and don't disturb your family of four." After saying that, Li Shiqing and Li Shilian got up and left. After all, in a few days, after the family's spiritual testing conference this year is over, their family will be temporarily separated. According to the family rules, after the spiritual root test is completed, no matter who the parents are, they must live in the Linghu courtyard for the next 3 years. The purpose of doing so is, firstly, to take better and more convenient care of and teach all the children. Although Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu are both giant and cultivators, their experience in this regard is not as good as those of the deacons and elders of Linghu. Secondly, it is to let these children know and get to know each other, deepen the bond and feelings between them, and then let them strengthen their sense of identity and belonging to the family. Therefore, Even Li Zhirui's children cannot violate the family rules and must live in Linghuan and spend 3 years there until they start formal cultivation. Zhang Fengwu suddenly remembered this matter and was very reluctant to leave the 2 children. He asked, Zhiru, can you discuss with the family and let Shenzhe and Shu'er go home to rest at night? Li Zhirui shook his head. He was also very reluctant, but rules are rules. Moreover, his status in the family is too high. If he takes the lead in breaking the rules, it will cause great impact. A single move will affect the whole body. It is possible that all the rules that the Li family has maintained for many years will be impacted. Don't worry, the conditions in Linghuan are not worse than at home. In some cases, it is even more suitable for the 2 brothers and sisters. After Zhang Fengwu got this answer, he was unhappy and stopped talking. Li Zhirui sighed helplessly and turned to Li Chengsheng and said, Shenzhe, you are my brother. You must take good care of Shu'er when you go to Linghuan. I don't want to. Li Chengsheng waved his little fist, his face full of dissatisfaction. I am already a big boy. I can take care of myself. Daddy said the wrong thing. Shu'er is the best. Li Chengsheng, who was a little kid, nodded pretentiously and said, I forgive Daddy. The family played around for a while. Because Li Chengsheng was young, he was easily sleepy. After sending her back to her room to sleep, they dispersed. Fengwu, I know you can't bear to leave Shenzhe and Shu'er, but these rules are the foundation of the family and cannot be broken. Seeing that Zhang Fengwu ignored him, Li Zhirui smiled bitterly and explained helplessly. In fact, it's not that she didn't understand these things, but she just didn't want to accept them. After all, the 2 children were only 5 years old. How could she bear to be separated from them for 3 years? I'm going to set up the spirit testing formation. Zhang Fengwu said this stiffly and walked away. Li Zhirui knew that she had accepted this fact, but she just couldn't get over it for a while, so he let her go to relax. After all, even if Li Zhirin died, the family had other second-level formation masters, so how could they use her, a third-level formation master? Half a month later, the family's annual spirit testing conference was officially opened. The square, which had been expanded several times, was filled with black people, and there was no place to stay. Most of these people were from the secular clans of the Li family. After all, compared with monks, ordinary people have a unique advantage in breeding offspring. Especially the warm climate on Banyan Island can produce 3 crops a year, and there are many spiritual veins on the island, which will emit some spiritual energy, making the crop yield very high. When you are well fed and warm, you will think about sex. There is no entertainment in this era. In addition to having children, you can only sleep at night. The most important thing is that all the human beings in this world yearn for cultivation and look forward to the bizarre world of cultivation. In addition, the Li family has always encouraged people to have more children, so the number of people coming to test their spiritual roots is naturally increasing. It seems that we need to set up a few more spiritual testing formations, otherwise, at the current speed, it will take several days just to test whether everyone has spiritual roots. It doesn't matter for the children of those cultivators. They can go home and rest. Besides, they are the first batch of tests and will know the answer on the first day. But those children from mortals have nowhere to go. After thinking about it, Li Chengmo ordered Li Chengzhen, the only second-level formation master in the family, to set up 2 spiritual testing formations not far away as soon as possible. Chapter 317 Operation. There is nothing much to say about the process of the spirit testing conference. The only thing worth mentioning is that many children with spiritual roots were found this year. Unfortunately, there are no good ones. Most of them have 4 spiritual roots or even 5 spiritual roots. If they were placed in a sect with such qualifications, they might not be accepted. Even if they were accepted, they would be menial disciples who were no different from slaves. But in the family, apart from other things, the most basic treatment would definitely be satisfied. As for whether there are people like Li Zhixun among them, who have stepped into the late stage of foundation building with the qualifications of 4 spiritual roots, Li Zhirui is still unknown, but he does not have too high expectations. After all, there has only been one person like Li Zhixun in the hundreds of years since the Li family was founded. After the spirit testing conference, the children who have found their spiritual roots this year should also enter the Linghu Academy and start the 3 years of polishing their meridians. Shenzhe, Shu'er, take care of yourselves. Your mother and I will be waiting for you at home. Li Zhirui brought the 2 to the gate of Linghuan and said, go in and meet more friends. I've written it down. Daddy, don't worry, I will help you take care of my brother. the cute little Cheng Shuo answered loudly. Li Chengshen, who always had no expression, twitched his mouth uncontrollably several times. Just his twin sister, and he still wanted to take care of others? It's already amazing to be able to take care of yourself. Okay, I believe sure. However, Li Zhirui ignored these practical problems and affirmed seriously. Shenger, polish your meridians and exercise your body well. This will have many benefits for your future practice. Li Zhirui patted his young shoulders and communicated with him in an equal manner. Thank you for reminding me, Daddy. Li Chengsheng looked at the man who was planning for him in front of him, and couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. From childhood to adulthood, in his eyes, whether it is his father Li Zhirui or his mother Zhang Fengwu, they both value and pamper Li Chengshuo more. Although he will not be jealous, he cannot control his envy. It was not until this period that Li Chengsheng realized that his parents did not disregard him, but in different ways. Go in. Li Zhirui sent the two to Linghuan and stood at the door for a while until the two little guys were completely out of his sight, then he turned and left. As for Zhang Fengwu, she was reluctant to leave, and she didn't want to experience the separation in person. She was afraid that she would cry on the spot. When Li Zhirui went back, he saw that she was still unhappy. Since the two older children are no longer at home, we should also work hard to give them a younger brother or sister, as he said. He went forward to pick up Zhang Fengwu and walked into the bedroom. You actually still have the mind to do these things. Zhang Fengwu glared at him with shame and annoyance, but she didn't know how attractive she looked like this. Originally, Li Zhirui was just joking to ease Zhang Fengwu's sadness, but now he is ready to take action. It's because Fengwu is too beautiful. Your husband can't stand the test at all. As he said that, he began to touch her all over, making Zhang Fengwu gasp for air. Two flowers bloom, each with its own beauty. However, Li Chengsheng and Li Chengshuo, who had already entered the campus, were studying this place they had never been to. Brother, Linghu Academy is so big. At first, Linghu Academy was not big, but as more and more children were tested for spiritual roots every year, Linghu Academy could be said to have expanded again and again, and now it occupies a tall mountain. Li Chengsheng couldn't help but frown, because since they came in, everyone seemed to know them and stared at them. What he didn't know was that since the birth of the two brothers and sisters, someone had been planning how to contact them and make friends with them. Who let them have good parents? It can be said that their starting point is the end point that countless cultivators can never reach in their entire lives. After a while, a boy about 6 or 7 years old came out and said, Brother Sheng, I will take you to the dormitory. You will start training tomorrow. You should put a lot of things away first to avoid being in a hurry. Brother Jiu, the two shouted happily. Li Chengju is the son of Li Zhirui's eldest brother Li Zhizhen. Because they are of similar age, the three can be said to have grown up together. He is 1 year older, so he entered Linghu Academy a year earlier. Naturally, his aptitude is not as good as the two, but it is also good. He has 3 spiritual roots of gold, water and wood. If you have nothing to do today, go to bed early, otherwise you will be very tired for the first training tomorrow. Before leaving, Li Chengjiu kindly reminded them a few words. We know, thank you for reminding me, Brother Jiu. Li Chengjiu still had his own things to do, so he didn't stay for long. After he left, the other 3 people in the courtyard opened the door and walked out. Each courtyard can accommodate up to 10 people. They were lucky, with only 5 people in total. Hello, my name is Li Dajin Li Chengxi Li Dajin. There are 2 boys and 1 girl, and Li Dajin is the only girl. What's a little strange is that all 3 of them grew up in the secular world. Although Li Chengsheng felt a little strange, he was young and didn't think much about it. This was actually arranged by Li Zhirui. Because the children who grew up in the clan land, not all of them, but most of them would take the initiative or curry favor with a brother and sister because of the requirements of their elders. Li Zhirui didn't want them to live in an environment of flattery and fawning at an age when their minds were uncertain, which would lead Li Chengsheng and Li Chengshuo astray. So he made some special arrangements. The brother and sister also introduced their families, but did not say the identities of their parents. Of course, even if they did, Li Dajin and the other 2 would not recognize them now. You've been busy all day, go back and rest. Because everyone was unfamiliar, they chatted for a few words and the scene became quiet. This was exactly what Li Chengsheng wanted. He said something to the 3 of them and went into his room. On the second day, just as the sky was getting light, a piercing sound rang out in Linghu Academy. as if it exploded in their ears, and everyone woke up instantly. I'll give you a quarter of an hour to wash up. If you don't make it, today's training will be doubled, a cold voice followed. Li Chengsheng and others didn't know the content of the training. But they knew without thinking that being late was definitely not a good thing. After hurriedly washing up, they ran to the venue in a hurry. They arrived in time, but many people still did not arrive within the specified time. A burly monk who seemed to be proficient in the way of the flesh said, "My name is Li Zhirui. From now on, I will be your morning class master. I don't care who your parents are or how high their status in the family is. As long as they make a mistake, I will never show mercy," Li Zhirui said meaningfully. Thanks to book friend 20220527113732381 for the reward. Thank you all for your support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Puppet. It's not that Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui have any conflicts. After all, there is a big age gap between the two. When Li Zhirui broke through the foundation building stage, he had just started practicing and was not familiar with it at all. The reason why he said that was because of his nature. It was also because of this that he was selected by Linghu Academy in the late stage of key training and served as the morning class master of the newly admitted children. If you feel that you can't hold on for this exercise, you can just give up. After giving everyone a shot of prevention, Li Zhirui didn't say anything nonsense and immediately led everyone to start the first exercise. After half an hour, most of the children were so tired that they lay down, and there were very few who could still stand. Among them was Li Chengsheng. It seems a bit excessive, but over the years, the Li family has had sufficient experience in this regard, and it will not harm the children's foundation. In addition, after each exercise, there is a medicinal bath to nourish, which further eliminates the possibility of damage to the foundation. Moreover, the main purpose of today's exercise is to see the physical fitness of these children, so as to arrange a reasonable exercise intensity for them in the future. "Brother, I'm so tired. I want to go home," Li Chengshuo said softly with tears in his eyes. Generally speaking, women's bodies are weaker than men's, and Li Chengshuo is no exception. In addition, she has been spoiled by Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu in recent years, and her willpower is not very strong. So when she was exercising just now, she felt that she couldn't hold on for a while. She refused to admit defeat and held on for a while, but soon fell to the ground. "Sure, be good, just hold on." Li Chengsheng has been sensible since he was a child. He has learned the reasons and benefits of exercise in advance. For the sake of his sister's future, he will not say words like giving up. Although the qualifications of the two brothers and sisters are very good, this can only determine their lower limit. If they want to achieve higher achievements, they also have to make a lot of efforts. Fortunately, Li Chengshuo is sensible. After being comforted by Li Chengsheng for a while, he accepted the current life. Li Zhirui also inquired about the situation of his two children. Although he felt sorry for their spoiled children, he could not do anything for their future. In order to divert their attention, the two began to spend a lot of time on alchemy and formations, and no longer paid too much attention to the brother and sister, so as not to break the rules one day. At the same time, Li Zhirui also told Zhang Fengwu, Li Shiqing and Li Shilian that he would go out in a few years to find the whereabouts of the beast-taming sect. The Wanling Sutra practiced by the family only has the Golden Elixir chapter, and the follow-up is incomplete. The only clue is the beast-taming sect for the sake of the family, and for the path of my two children and me. This must be done, Li Zhirui said in a deep voice. Zhang Fengwu was a little worried. The Zuanian continent is vast and boundless. Even if it is just the East region, it is not an easy task to find a few stray dogs, not to mention that the disciples who escaped from the beast-taming sect may have left the East region. The world is so big, where do you start looking? But what Li Zhirui said also makes sense. If they don't find a follow-up of the practice, unless they change the practice, they can only stop at a golden elixir. How can a convertible practice be so easy to obtain? What they need is the technique of the nascent soul realm. Not to mention whether there is one on the market. Even if there is one, it is either extremely expensive or only allowed for personal practice, and it is impossible to pass it down as a family inheritance. Zhang Fengwu is not very confident that he can break through the nascent soul, but he is confident about Li Zhirui, as well as his children Li Chengsheng and Li Changshuo. So even if he is not very happy, he did not speak up. Li Shiking, who had heard about this a long time ago, frowned and said, "You are still far from the nascent soul now. Don't be so anxious. Why don't you wait until you break through the late giant before looking for it? In this way, Li Zhirui has a stronger strength to travel outside, and the process of looking for the whereabouts of the beast-taming sect is also a training, and maybe he can pry open the bottleneck of breaking through. If he is lucky, maybe when Li Zhirui gets the technique, he can directly try to break through, break the dam into baby, and become a nascent soul true lord. This matter should be dealt with sooner rather than later." Li Zhirui shook his head and explained, "It has been so many years. I am afraid that if it is too late, I will not be able to find any traces." In fact, he wanted to take action several years ago, but he did not expect that he would marry Zhang Fengwu and she would be pregnant, so it took several years to waste time. Now Li Chengsheng and his sister have entered Linhu Academy, and after they come out, they will start to practice under the guidance of the family and slowly get on the right track. He does not need to worry about it anymore. Li Shiking was silent for a while and said nothing more. He just said, "If you want to, then do it. We will take good care of the family. Why don't we ask Big Xiaolao first? See if they know the whereabouts of the remaining disciples of the beast-taming sect." Li Shilian on the side suddenly said. Big Xiaolao, as the name suggests, is an organization that sells intelligence and information. It is said to be very powerful and has branches in many places in the East region, such as King Shan's Hao and Wanli's Hao. But then again, if you don't have some strength, would you dare to do such an offensive business? Hearing this, several people were stunned. They really didn't think about it before, mainly because they didn't think about it in this way. After all, these things are handled by the foreign affairs elders, and they rarely deal with Big Xiaolao. You can try it, at least there will be a clear clue, and you don't have to run around like a headless fly. Several people are not people who drag their feet. After discussing, Li Zhirui set off for Qingshan Market. Tisk, it's really amazing. Li Zhirui looked at the family in front of him doing this kind of business openly, and couldn't help but smack his lips. As soon as he stepped over the threshold, a beautiful female cultivator came to him and asked respectfully, "Hello, senior, I wonder if you are here to sell or buy intelligence?" "Oh? This is my first time in Big Xiaolao, can you introduce it to me?" In fact, there is nothing much to say, it's nothing more than bidding or selling according to the preciousness of the news and intelligence. I came here to buy some information. Spiritual stones are not a problem, Li Zhirui said generously. "Senior, please." The female cultivator's eyes lit up immediately. They had commissions, and she couldn't help but guess how much commission she could get this time. Under her guidance, Li Zhirui entered an empty room with objects placed just right. But what appeared in front of him was not a cultivator, or even a living creature, but a wooden puppet. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows. He knew that there was a puppet among the cultivation skills, but this was the first time he saw it. Chapter 319 Traces. Please record the information you want to know into the jade slip, and then put it on the jade plate in front of me. I will give you a price as soon as possible. If you are willing to pay, I will give you the corresponding information, the wooden puppet said mechanically. Li Zhirui looked at the puppet curiously. He didn't know what means they used to speak through the puppet. But he didn't waste time. He reached out and took the jade slip beside him. He used his spiritual sense to engrave the whereabouts of the beast-taming sect in it. After thinking about it, he also added the Wanling Sutra of the practice method. After finishing, Li Zhirui put the jade slip on the jade plate, and saw a flash of light, and the jade slip disappeared. This scene surprised Li Zhirui, because if he was not mistaken, the jade plate should have been engraved with a teleportation formation. If every room in Big Xiao building has a micro-teleportation formation, it would also be a shocking expense. Big Xiao building is really rich and powerful, and the intelligence business is really a lucrative business. Li Zhirui was filled with emotion, but he also understood that this was not something the Li family could do. Not to mention whether they had the ability or not, the Li family simply did not have the strength to do such a dangerous thing. Just as Li Zhirui was daydreaming, the two things he wanted to know had been found by a certain cultivator. Is this someone from the Li family of Banyan Island? Well, it looks like it should be the alchemist Li Zhirui. Why did the Li family want to inquire about the whereabouts of the beast-taming sect? A cultivator who looked very young asked curiously. It is not difficult to guess that the Li family's cultivation method is the Wanling Sutra. They should be lacking subsequent cultivation methods now, so they came to buy intelligence. But, fellow Taoist Zhang, some things are enough to know in your heart, don't ask too much. Another person shook his head and reminded him, and then went to look through the information with others and quoted prices to Li Zhirui and others. When he saw the price offered by Baixiao Tower, even with his temperament, he was shocked. The price of the whereabouts of the disciples of the beast-taming sect was 180,000 spirit stones, and the information also mentioned that it was collected a year or two ago and had no timeliness at all. But this was normal. After all, in their eyes, the beast-taming sect was nothing in the eyes of Baixiao, even before it was ruined. It was not worth arranging people to collect information. As for the second one, the subsequent practice of the Wanling Sutra, Baixiao also gave an estimate, but the price was a world of difference compared to the previous one, and only 30,000 spirit stones were needed. With a hint of curiosity, Li Zhirui paid 30,000 spirit stones, and soon, a spiritual light said that there was an extra jade slip on the jade plate. He reached out to grab it and took a look. After a moment, he couldn't help but frown. No wonder the price was so low. The jade slip gave the location of a secret realm, and said that in this secret realm, there was the practice of the Wanling Sutra, and it was a complete set. It's just that the secret realm opens once every 100 years, and there are still more than 20 years before the next secret realm opens. So this method can be tried. It's only 20 to 30 years anyway. He can afford to wait, but he can't take action now. So Li Zhirui paid a huge amount of spirit stones and got a very informative document. It recorded the location of the disciples of the beast control sect, how many monks there are, how they are, what their skills are, what kind of fighting methods they are good at, etc., which made Li Zhirui feel that the 180,000 spirit stones were worth it. With 2 jade slips, Li Zhirui got up and left Baixiao Tower. As soon as he returned to Banyan Island, he handed the jade slips to Li Shiking and others. Second grandfather, there are no late Jinden disciples among those beast control sect disciples. How about I take Daking and others to go there? Li Zhirui asked. According to the information from Baixiao Tower, they know that the beast control sect is now in the northwest of Yunping Prefecture, about tens of thousands of miles away, in a place called Yulin Prefecture. The mountain gate has been rebuilt, and the sect has been established to recruit disciples. Because this beast control sect has 2 Jinden monks, it is still powerful in the vicinity, so it is very popular, and many monks want to join the beast control sect. Although it cannot be compared with a beast taming sect in its heyday, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. Moreover, when the beast-taming sect was destroyed, a group of disciples who escaped took away a lot of property, and there is still some heritage of the old sect. But if that was the case, the beast-taming sect could not stop Li Zhirui. Li Shiking pondered for a while and said, I'm sorry for your hard work, Zhirui, but don't be careless. If there's any omission in the information of Baixiao Tower, or if someone in the beast-taming sect breaks through during this period, you will run away if the situation is not good. After all, the information in their hands was collected 1 or 2 years ago, and it is not known what changes have occurred now. But the Wanling Sutra is too important to the family. Now that there is news, how can they not send people to inquire? Moreover, he also believes in Li Zhirui's strength. If he really encounters any danger, he can still escape if he can't win. Zhaoqing, who has broken through the 3rd level, is so fast that unless he is a Jinden cultivator who is proficient in escape, he can't catch up at all. Then I'll go back and prepare, and leave in a few days. He made an agreement with Li Chengsheng and his sister to go early and come back early. When they leave Linghuan, he and Zhang Fengwu will wait for them at home. Li Zhirui is unwilling to break the appointment for no reason. Have you got the news? Zhang Fengwu asked as soon as he saw Li Zhirui. Yes, I'll go to investigate the situation in a few days. I'll go with you, Zhang Fengwu said worriedly. Li Zhirui shook his head and refused, saying, I will bring Daking and Zhaoqing with me. With them, you don't have to worry about my safety. Moreover, without Zhang Fengwu, he would be safer, because if he really encountered irresistible danger, he could dodge and hide in space. But if she went with him, Li Zhirui would not be able to use this trump card. And the family also needs you to stay in charge. In case of any accidents, you can also deal with it in time. Li Zhirui was really worried about leaving only Li Shiking and Li Shilian, the 2 elders who were disabled and weak, in the family. Okay, Zhang Fengwu finally compromised, but repeatedly told Li Zhirui to be careful, not to be impulsive, and to return safely. You know, Li Zhirui came this time for the other party's fundamental skills. How could the beast-taming sect easily agree? If nothing unexpected happens, the two sides will definitely have to fight. A few days later, Li Zhirui, who was ready, left in the eyes of Zhang Fengwu, Li Shiking and others, who were either worried or full of hope. The journey was calm and there were no blind monks. It was just that the journey was long, and it took Li Zhirui nearly a month to reach Yulin's Hao. Thanks to Haksoi for the reward. Thanks to everyone for their support. Chapter 320 Abandoned. The terrain of Yulin's Hao is flat. At a glance, there are tall and straight giant trees, and the spiritual energy is quite rich. In addition to the Beastmaster sect, there is also a Jinden sect, the Yuluo sect. The two rival each other and occupy half of Yulin's Hao. Although the Beastmaster sect suddenly moved here and destroyed several foundation-building forces to have its current foundation, the Beastmaster sect monks were able to contract spirit beasts, so their strength was stronger than the Yuluo sect. Fortunately, the two Jinden monks of the Beastmaster sect only have 1/3 level spirit beast, and their strength is not much higher than that of the Yuluo sect. Otherwise, Yulin's Hao would be dominated by the Beastmaster sect. After Li Zhirui heard this news, he was completely relieved. The Beastmaster sect only has 3 Jinden, including the contracted spirit beasts. If a conflict breaks out, even if he is not an opponent, he can leave calmly. Besides, he is not without other helpers. Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, thinking about how to contact the Beastmaster sect. Should I go directly to the door or knock on the door first? After thinking about it, Li Zhirui finally decided not to take action if he could. After all, this was the other party's home ground. Let's see if we can make a deal. While perfecting this idea, he flew towards the beast-taming sect. When he arrived at the destination, 2 patrolling disciples flew over cautiously and asked respectfully, "I wonder why you came to my beast-taming sect. Go and tell your elders that the old friend from Wanlingzhao is here to visit." Wanlingzhao is the territory of the beast-taming sect and the original clan land of the Li family. However, these 2 patrolling disciples came to Yulin's Hao to recruit and did not know the story of the beast-taming sect. They were stunned for a moment, and considering that they might offend the Jinden cultivator, they immediately sent someone back to tell the elders about this matter. "What did you say?" After hearing the report, the head of the sect stood up in shock. "Others don't know. How can the high-level leaders of the sect not know the origin of the beast-taming sect?" But after so many years, no one from the enemy Baiyu sect or the former vassals came to the door, but today he suddenly appeared, and it was a Jinden cultivator. "Is this someone sent by Baiyu sect?" a foundation-building elder said anxiously. "It shouldn't be, although it is said that only by cutting the grass and eradicating the roots can we eliminate future troubles, but they escaped in time, and Baiyu sect acted hastily, allowing many fellow disciples to escape the encirclement. Baiyu sect had no way to completely wipe out the disciples of the Beastmaster sect. Moreover, after so many years, Baiyu sect would not suddenly send a Jinden cultivator. That person knew that the Beastmaster sect had 2 Jindens, but he dared to come alone. Either he was very confident in himself, or he came with good intentions. But he was not sure which one Li Zhirui was. Since he has come to the door, no matter what his purpose is, we have to meet him, right? Otherwise, it would be unclear whether he was an enemy or a friend. "Go and invite Uncle Gu and Uncle Wang." The head of the sect nodded and gave instructions while walking towards the mountain gate with several elders. Li Zhirui waited outside for half a quarter of an hour without any impatience on his face. After all, he came to the door this time to make a deal, so his attitude was naturally better. "Senior, we are sorry for not welcoming you from afar. I hope you will forgive us." The head of the sect came to greet him personally with several elders, and by the way, he made up a reason and explained why they came now. Li Zhirui did not comment on this. When facing their temptation, he directly stated his identity. As for the big matter of trading the Wanling Sutra with them, it was not something that these elders could decide, so he was too lazy to waste his breath. Li, an elder who was accompanying him, muttered a few times, as if he remembered something, and asked in disbelief, "Senior is from the Bailang Li family." When he heard the name of the Bailang Li family, Li Zhirui was stunned. He had not heard of it for many years. "I didn't expect that someone still remembered the Li family," Li Zhirui chuckled. Although he was not very old at that time, he had the heart of an adult and knew very well that the beast control sect did not regard them as vassal forces at all. They only wanted to exploit them and squeeze every drop of blood and sweat. When these words came out, except for Li Zhirui, everyone else showed a trace of embarrassment on their faces. They certainly knew what kind of virtue the beast control sect was. In addition, a vassal family that was enslaved back then has now given birth to a giant and cultivator, whose identity and status far exceed theirs. They are very complicated and don't know what to say. Fortunately, this awkward atmosphere did not last too long. The group entered the sect's main hall. 2 giant and cultivators from the beast control sect were already waiting there. Guan, Wang Zhao meet fellow Taoist. The moment the 2 saw Li Zhirui, they stood up and took the initiative to greet him. The 2 of them are also in the middle stage of the Jinden, but the gap with Li Zhirui is not ordinary, because they are older. The lifespan of the Jinden is 500 years, and they only have less than 100 years left. Unless there is a miracle, there is almost no possibility of breaking through to the nascent soul. Although it is difficult to tell the age of a cultivator from his appearance, one can roughly guess the age of a cultivator from the decay of his body, the decay of his ki and blood, the aging of his mentality, and so on. In their eyes, Li Zhirui was a genius who would never be too old. Once you offend such a person, you must deal with him thoroughly before he grows up, otherwise it will only hurt you. Li Zhirui of the Bailang Li family, I am honored to meet you 2 fellow Taoists. Li Zhirui returned the greeting in a friendly manner. In fact, the 2 had never heard of the Bailang Li family before, but in front of Li Zhirui, they still pretended to have heard of his name for a long time. Li Zhirui didn't want to play along with him, so he said directly, "My main purpose of visiting your sect this time is to trade the 10,000 Spirits Sutra." Guan and Wang Zhao frowned and looked at each other, as if they were choosing their words. After a while, they said, "I wonder what is the relationship between you and my beast-taming sect." The Li family used to be a vassal of the beast-taming sect. Hearing this, the 2 immediately understood that it seemed that they came to visit because there was no follow-up practice. After all, the beast-taming sect wanted to harvest more wealth, for example, spread the practice, but control the source of high-grade spirit beasts while prohibiting the appearance of high-grade spirit beasts on the market, so as to achieve a monopoly. So they pretended to be generous and spread the practice, so that all the vassal forces later practiced the 10,000 Spirits Sutra. Of course, it is limited to the methods of key training and foundation building. The Li family was able to obtain the practice of the Golden Core Realm because they made great contributions in the competition for the Spirit Stone Veins. It's a pity that the practice in their hands is not complete. Chapter 321 Disappointment. After we escaped, we had disagreements. After running a distance, we decided to split up. This not only increased the chances of escape, but also allowed for better inheritance. Guan smiled helplessly and continued to explain, because our strength was relatively weak at the time, the real inheritance was in the hands of those direct descendants. In fact, Guan's words were somewhat embellished. When they fled, they were either low-level cultivators who practiced ki and built their foundation, or they were seriously injured and were pure burdens. The so-called disagreements were actually because people disliked them and thought they would implicate themselves, so they abandoned them. Although Guan covered up, Li Zhirui still guessed the truth. After all, they still had disagreements on the way to escape. Did they think they were too lucky or too hard? His face couldn't help but look a little ugly, full of disappointment. After Li Zhirui inquired about the strength of the Beastmaster sect, he thought that the Beastmaster sect suffered heavy losses when they fled, or something happened later, so that now there are only 2 giant and cultivators to support the scene. You know, although there was no Yuanying in the beast control sect at that time, the number of giant and cultivators was no less than that of the current Shenlai mountain, at least a dozen. Even the Li family knew in time that the Baiyu sect was going to attack the beast control sect, so how could the beast control sect not know? I'm afraid that the moment they knew that the Baiyu sect's Yuanying had broken through, they had arranged a retreat. Even if there was no way to let most of the Jinden escape, it was impossible for only 2 Jinden to survive. Li Zhirui thought a lot, but he didn't expect that the beast control sect he found was actually a sect established by a group of abandoned children who huddled together for warmth. Then how did you break through to the Jinden? Li Zhirui asked with a frown. When Guan heard this, he knew that Li Zhirui had guessed the truth. A trace of embarrassment appeared on his face, and he said, "In our group back then, there were several injured Jinden uncles. They taught us, and only then did we perfect the Wanling Sutra to the Jinden realm." Didn't anyone among those Jinden know the practice of the Yuanying realm? Li Zhirui asked unwillingly. In fact, he knew in his heart that this was impossible. The cultivation method of the nascent soul realm was extremely precious. How could it be possible to pass it on to a few abandoned cultivators? It was just that Li Zhirui was unwilling to make a wasted trip and wanted to struggle. Seeing the two shaking their heads, Li Zhirui sighed again and said, I wonder if the two Taoists are willing to trade the Wanling Sutra you have in your hands. He wanted to see the original replica of the Wanling Sutra and the difference between the excerpted and supplemented version they had. If you have any spiritual objects you need, you can tell me. I will discuss it with the elders after I return to the family. I wonder how many golden elixirs your family has, Wang Xiao suddenly asked. 4. A trace of vigilance flashed in Li Zhirui's eyes, and he suddenly smiled and said, in addition, there are 3 third-level contracted spirit beasts, 2 of which are my contracted spirit beasts. Before he finished speaking, Daking and Zhaoqing appeared beside Li Zhirui, and their huge bodies gave people an invisible sense of oppression. Even if Wang Xiao is unstable, Li Zhirui will show the strength of his family and himself to prevent them from having any bad intentions. Although he is very confident in his strength, it will still be troublesome if they really fight. Guan and others' faces changed slightly. They thought that Li Zhirui was very young and had the cultivation of the middle stage of the golden core, which was already very good. They never expected that he actually had 2 third-level spirit beasts. This kind of strength is enough to compete with the entire beast-taming sect. Wang Xiao's little thoughts disappeared in an instant, and he was even a little worried that Li Zhirui would take action against a beast-taming sect. Haha. Guan laughed dryly twice and praised repeatedly, Dao Li is really amazing. Dao Gu, let's talk about what you want to trade. Li Zhirui didn't want to waste time here anymore, so he interrupted his endless words. Dao, can you let us discuss it for a while? Okay, Dao, please make a decision quickly. Li Zhirui was afraid that they would argue for half an hour or even longer, so he reminded them. Just a quarter of an hour, Guan, Wang Xiao and a group of senior leaders stood up and went to the back hall. He looks gentle, but if we don't agree, I'm afraid he will take action directly, Guan said with a wry smile. An elder said somewhat radically, Uncle Gu, although that person is powerful, this is our territory. With the combined power of everyone and the formation, is it possible that we can't beat him? Since he dared to come in alone, he must have full confidence in his own strength, Guan refused without hesitation. Besides, even if they won, it would be a miserable victory. If the news leaked and was known by the Yuluo sect, the beast-taming sect might experience another disaster of extermination. In fact, he did have this idea, but he thought that Li Zhirui was loved by the family and must have a lot of life-saving things on him. If they failed to eradicate the roots this time, then they would be in danger. The risk here is too great, and he dared not take the risk. Why don't we ask him to join us in destroying the Yuluo sect? This proposal made many people's eyes light up. If the Yuluo sect was gone, they would be able to monopolize the land of a state, obtain more resources, and develop faster. Guan and Wang Xiao looked at each other and thought that this was a good idea. With the help of Li Zhirui's power, the Beastmaster sect could take down the Yuluo sect at a relatively low cost. Soon, several people returned to the main hall. Guan said, Dao Li, we want to use your power to destroy the Yuluo sect. Li Zhirui frowned, and after a moment of silence, he said, okay, but I will only help to contain the 2 giant cultivators, and you must not reveal my identity. First, Li Zhirui did not want to get involved in too much killing karma and cause and effect, and second, he was worried that if the grass was not cut clean, someone else would grow up and cause trouble for the Li family. Although the latter possibility is very small, the world is so big that there are all kinds of things. What if there really is such a son of destiny? Okay, Guan and the others were not stupid, and they immediately understood the purpose of Li Zhirui's actions. However, they did not take it to heart. How could such a plot that only existed in the storybook be staged in reality? In that case, let's swear an oath. The 2 sides did not have any basis of trust, and swearing an oath was the best way to form a contract. Seeing Li Zhirui swearing an oath, Guan and the others did not hesitate, and immediately spoke solemnly, swearing the Tao oath and the heart demon oath. Are you ready to act now, or do you want to summon the disciples? Li Zhirui asked. If it were him, he would definitely choose to strike with lightning, only bringing some foundation-building disciples to guard the surroundings, and then rushing straight to the Yuluo sect to launch a surprise attack. However, this is the business of the Beastmaster sect, and he is only responsible for restraining the 2 giant of the Yuluo sect, so naturally he would not say anything. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 322 Action. Fortunately, Guan and the others were not stupid. They knew the advantage of surprise and said, let's gather the disciples now, and in half an hour, we will kill our way up Yuluo Mountain. Okay, I'll wait for you outside the mountain. Li Zhirui didn't want to get involved too much with the Beastmaster sect, so he chose to avoid it. They didn't ask him to stay, and only sent the head of the sect to send Li Zhirui away. In order to set off as soon as possible and not attract the attention of the Yuluo sect, Guan and the others took out the sect list and selected a large part of the foundation building disciples, more than 100 people, and didn't tell them what it was. They directly told them to meet in front of the mountain gate in 2/4 of an hour. All disciples who receive the notice must not disobey, otherwise they will be punished for treason. The disciples who were notified were full of doubts, but time was tight, and they didn't have time to think too much, let alone contact and communicate with others. After quickly packing up various spiritual objects, they hurried to the mountain gate. Has something happened in the sect? Why are so many foundation building masters flying outside? The spiritual lights of the foundation building monks flying continuously passed over the sky above the beast-taming sect, arousing the curiosity and speculation of many disciples. Could it be that they are going to go to war with the Yuluo sect? A trace of fear flashed across the disciple's face. Although he had not experienced a major war, he also knew the cruelty of war. How is this possible? Our two families are about the same in strength. How can we go to war casually? Even if we really fight, it is impossible that we have not received a notice. The fellow disciple beside him shook his head and denied confidently. But what they didn't know was that this time they were really going to go to war with the Yuluo sect. The reason why they didn't notify them was because their strength was too weak. There was no need to do so, and the news might leak out. And the extra Li Zhirui, just by himself, would be more effective on the battlefield than these key training monks. Everyone talked about it, and some disciples with ulterior motives, seeing that the situation was not good, also began to act carefully. Unfortunately, in order to ensure the confidentiality of the news and prevent the Yuluo sect from knowing about it, the Beastmaster sect has already activated the Mountain Protection Formation, which not only blocked the communication talisman, but also prohibited the disciples from entering and leaving. Sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. Less than half an hour later, Guan and Wang Zhao came to Li Zhirui with nearly 100 foundation-building disciples. They were very curious about Li Zhirui, but because of the difference in cultivation and status, they didn't dare to ask, and Guan and the others didn't want to introduce him because of the confidentiality. As soon as Li Zhirui saw this lineup, he knew that the Beastmaster sect was really determined to destroy the Yuluo sect this time. If he was not wrong, there were less than 200 foundation-building disciples in the Beastmaster sect now, and there were more than 100 people present. It would be good to take advantage of the situation to destroy the Yuluo sect. Even if there were casualties, they could recover quickly after occupying Gulin's Hao. But if they failed, the Beastmaster sect would have a hard time in the future. Maybe they would be defeated by others. It won't be long. Li Zhirui thought about it and said with a smile, since you are ready, let's go directly. The spirit ship started, and its speed was like a feather arrow rushing into the sky, and it was just a moment before they could see Yuluo Mountain in the distance. On the ship, Guan and Wang Zhao told the disciples about the purpose of this trip. The disciples were shocked when they heard it. They never expected that they would really take action against Yuluo sect. But with it came fear and terror. Although they were all foundation-building cultivators, they still did not have full confidence that they could survive in the chaotic and cruel war. Wang Zhao also knew their concerns and said immediately, in this battle, you only need to block the Yuluo mountain and prevent the Yuluo disciples from escaping. Leave the rest to us. Some calmed-down disciples looked up at Li Zhirui. This giant's Henren who suddenly appeared actually gave the two uncles such great courage. The spirit ship came not far from Yuluo mountain. Guan and Wang Zhao, who had been ready for a long time, attacked the Mountain Protection Formation. A khaki-colored hammer and a gem wrapped in flames, carrying a huge force, smashed onto the formation. Boom boom boom, a roaring explosion sounded, and the Mountain Protection Formation, which was not fully activated, flickered violently. Fortunately, the cultivators in the mountain reacted in time and quickly input a large amount of spiritual energy, which stabilized the formation and prevented it from being broken immediately. Guan, Wang Zhao, two spiritual lights flew out of the mountain, roaring with anger. Do you want to fight to the death with my Yuluo sect? But when they saw the more than 100 foundation-building disciples on the spirit ship, they were extremely surprised and felt that this matter was strange. The two of them immediately became much more cautious. Judging from the attack just now by Guan and the others, they were definitely serious and wanted to destroy the Yuluo sect, but it was too strange to bring only more than 100 foundation-building disciples, without even a single key training disciple. Today, I will definitely destroy you, Guan smiled and said, please help me, fellow Taoist. Li Zhirui, who had been hiding his appearance and aura and hiding in the crowd, suddenly had two rays of light flying out of his body. They were the two third-level spirit beasts, Daking and Zhaoqing, and rushed directly to the two giant monks. Liu Chang's face changed drastically. Impossible, how is this possible? They had been staring at the Beastmaster sect. How could a middle-stage giant monk suddenly appear, and there were two third-level spirit beasts? The other giant monk reacted quickly enough, stretched out his hand to pull Liu Chang, and was about to return to the formation. Li Zirui's hand flashed with light, and two small dragons rushed, trying to stop the two of them from returning to the formation. Unfortunately, their speed was too fast, and the distance was close, so they escaped in the blink of an eye. You two continue to attack the formation, and I will offset the opponent's attack, Li Zhirui said. At the beginning, he agreed to be responsible for restraining the two giant monks. Now even if they did not confront each other head-on, this responsibility is still his. Moreover, fighting can also allow Daking and Zhaoqing to adapt to their own strength and hone their own combat power. Zhaoqing is okay. Although he has just broken through, he is a raptor who is good at fighting, and his movements are agile, so spells can't hide him at all. But Daking's problem is a bit big. Because of some reasons, his combat power is very weak. Although Daking is more proficient in spells such as trapping and entanglement in addition to defensive spells. But people are hiding in the formation, and those spells don't even have a target. Are they going to be cast at the air? Seeing that Li Zhirui and the others were dealing with it easily, Guan and Wang Zhao were completely relieved and continued to attack the mountain protection formation. However, they will still keep some of their minds, so that Li Zhirui will not be able to counteract the attack in time, and they are unaware. Chapter 323 Jade Peach. Zhaoqing flapped his wings, and the green wind came in waves. Under his control, it turned into a huge tornado, raging between heaven and earth. The wind swept through, and the sky became a little darker, as if a natural disaster had come. This was the innate magical power that Zhaoqing awakened after breaking through the third level. It was called Qinggang Li Fin. It was not only fast, but also had a very high attack power. Under this magical power, the attacks of Liu Chang and others were quickly crushed. The tornado was unstoppable and actually moved towards the mountain protection formation. Li Zhirui was very satisfied with Zhaoqing's magical power. It happened to be combined with Daking's magical power. One attack and one defense, maybe it could deal with a cultivator who was one level higher than them. Quick, everyone, go all out, and be sure to stop this tornado, Liu Chang shouted anxiously. He still had some knowledge and recognized this magical power. He knew that the Qinggang Li Fang was extremely sharp, and anything swept into it would soon be crushed into ashes. Their mountain protection formation was already crumbling under the attacks of Guan and Wang Zhao. If this tornado is added, it will probably fall apart in no time. Brother Liu, what should we do now? The golden elixir said anxiously. If this continues, the mountain protection formation will be broken by them in no time. Don't I know what you said? Liu Chang's face was full of bitterness, but what can he do now? He is not as skilled as others. Arrange some disciples to escape from the secret passage. Let them escape as far as they can. Don't come back before they have enough strength. Many forces have the habit of digging escape secret passages. After all, once they encounter a crisis, they can use the secret passages to send out a group of cultivators to ensure the continuity of inheritance or the continuation of bloodline. Liu Chang said with a serious expression, let them leave. When the time comes, brethren, you can also take the opportunity to escape. As for the remaining disciples, they can only stay in the mountain gate to see if the Beastmaster sect is willing to spare their lives. In other words, most of the disciples were treated as pawns to confuse Li Zhirui and others. When the man heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little happy. No one wanted to die suddenly when they were living well. Of course, he still had to refuse, and finally he was forced to accept this kindness. Crack, Guan and the others seemed to have no idea what tiredness was. They kept attacking the formation. God will not let down those who work hard. They finally found a flaw in the mountain protection formation. For something as delicate as a formation, once there's a flaw, it will not be far from being completely broken. Junior brethren, you should leave quickly. Remember to save your life. The inheritance of the Yuluo sect is also handed over to you. Seeing that the formation was about to break, Liu Chang reminded him in a hurry. Senior brother, take care. Junior brethren had 1,000 words to say, but at this time, he only uttered these 4 words. Because the mountain protection formation was still there, Li Zhirui could only watch a giant and cultivator disappear in front of him. Fellow Taoist Gu, thank you for your hard work, but please go faster, otherwise if another giant and cultivator escapes, it can't be my fault. Li Zhirui reminded. Hearing this, Guan and the others dared not continue to rest. Li Zhirui was not a cultivator from Gulin's Hao. After this matter was resolved, he could leave directly no matter what the situation of Yuluo sect was. But they couldn't do that, so they had to cut the grass and root it out to prevent future troubles. Otherwise, the destructive power that a giant and cultivator with no worries could cause was enormous. Under their attack, the formation soon limbed, and the mountain protection formation was completely shattered. Because there was only one giant and cultivator in Liu Chang, Li Zhirui, Daking and Zhaoqing easily suppressed him and killed him in a safe way. Although the speed was slower, it was safer. Guan and Wang Zhao acted separately, one guarding this place and controlling all the disciples of Yuluo sect, while the other was looking for a secret escape route to find the whereabouts of the other giant and cultivator. But there was a gap of more than half an hour. With the speed of a giant and cultivator and deliberate concealment, it was impossible to find it. So Wang Zhao came back with a disappointed look on his face. Fellow Taoist Liu, do you know the whereabouts of your junior brother? Guan said with a smile. If you tell me, I can consider giving you a quick death. How could he not be happy? After defeating the rival for many years, the Beastmaster sect can monopolize Yulin province in the future. Bah, Liu Chang spat and said, kill or chop, it's all up to you. Li Zhirui was not interested in watching these. He took Daking and Zhaoqing back to the space and said, fellow Taoist Gu, I want to look around Yuluo mountain. When you are done here, I will come and meet you. Okay, fellow Taoist, go by yourself. Guo nodded and agreed without hesitation. He knew that doing so would cause the Beastmaster sect to lose some precious spiritual objects, but Li Zhirui played an indispensable role in defeating the Yuluo sect. He was qualified to divide the spiritual objects in the mountain, so there was no need to conflict with him for spiritual objects. Li Zhirui nodded, and left the place, flying towards a place with richer spiritual energy. Soon he saw a medicine garden. There were not many spiritual medicines growing there, but they were all third-level spiritual medicines, and there were many that he did not have. As expected of a giant in power for many years, even if it has declined a little, its foundation is still profound. While speaking, Li Zhirui did not delay his actions, and carefully dug out spiritual medicines one by one and transplanted them into the space. He did not go too far, only digging out one of each, and even choosing spiritual medicines that were far from mature. There are 3 medicine gardens on Yuluo Mountain, which allowed Li Zhirui to obtain a lot of third-level spiritual medicines, as well as several foundation-building spiritual medicines that were about to mature. This is, Li Zhirui came to the last place with rich spiritual energy. On the acres of third-level spiritual fields, there was only a short spiritual plant with yellow branches and leaves. Apart from that, there were no other spiritual objects. 4th-level spiritual plant 5 elements jade peach. For the first time, greed appeared in Li Zhirui's eyes. The 5 elements jade peach blooms for 30 years, bears fruit for 30 years, and matures for another 30 years. It only produces 36 jade peaches each time. 35 of the jade peaches belong to the 5 elements, 7 each, and the remaining jade peach has all 5 elements. It contains several times more pure spiritual energy than other jade peaches, and even has some benefits for breaking through the spirit transformation. It is described in the records that a jade peach eaten by a Yuanying's engine is equivalent to 10 years of hard training. This shows how precious the 5 elements jade peach is. The 5 elements jade peach in front of Li Zhirui may be due to insufficient spiritual energy, which leads to poor growth. It has not grown yet, and it is even farther away from blooming and bearing fruit. If it is grown on a 4th-level spiritual vein, it will take at least 200 years to grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 324, Disappointment. However, this also has an advantage, that is, the jade peach has few roots, so it is relatively easy to transplant. After Li Zhirui used his spiritual sense to find out all the roots, he directly dug out the nearby soil and transplanted it into the space. Because Li Zhirui broke through the golden elixir and moved several spiritual veins in front and behind, the spiritual energy in the space was barely comparable to the 4th level spiritual veins, which could be considered to feed this 5-element jade peach. But if you want a jade peach to grow faster, you still have to use spiritual stones. Li Zhirui calculated in his mind that if you want a jade peach to grow and start to bloom and bear fruit, you need to invest at least millions of spiritual stones. And a large part of this is used to make up for the previous deficit of the jade peach. But Li Zhirui can't take out so many spiritual stones now, because he has squandered all the spiritual stones in order to refine Zuanshingan not long ago. Daking and Zhaoqing, who were playing in the space, saw Li Zhirui transplanting spiritual plants and came over one after another. Zhaoqing asked curiously, "Brother Jiu, what is this spiritual plant that is not growing well?" He could sense that it was a 4th level spiritual plant, but he couldn't tell what it was. 5 elements jade peach can increase the mana of Yuanying cultivators, shorten the cultivation time, and even have a certain effect on breaking through the spirit transformation, Li Zhirui explained while digging a hole. Although he is only in the middle stage of Jinden now and may not have the ability to refine the jade peach, Li Zhirui believes that he will be able to use it one day, so he is not in a hurry to speed up the growth of the jade peach. The Yuluo sect actually has such a good thing. The two looked surprised and looked at the withered spiritual plant curiously. The Yuluo sect was also a big Jinden sect in the past, and it was prosperous for a while, but it declined later, Li Zhirui explained, and then flashed away from the space. After all, this was outside, and he couldn't stay in the space for too long, lest he be discovered. After coming out, Li Zhirui filled the hole back, thought about it, and took out some ordinary 3rd-level spiritual medicines from the space and planted them back, and then turned around and left this place. Having already visited various spiritual fields, Li Zhirui was now heading to the Sutra Pavilion of the Yuluo sect. He was not greedy and only wanted to copy some golden core realm techniques, or recipes for elixirs, or experiences in refining equipment. As for the Yuluo sect's storehouse, it seemed that some of the good things had been collected by Guan and his companions. Even if he rushed over, he would not be able to get anything precious, so Li Zhirui gave up. When he arrived in front of a pavilion that was more than 10 feet high, there were already many disciples of the beast-taming sect. It seemed that they were sorting out and summarizing various methods. "Dao Li is here? Seeing that Dao looks happy, I guess you must have found a lot of good things in the mountains, right?" Guan couldn't help but ask tentatively. Li Zhirui nodded and admitted it directly, and said with a smile, "The Yuluo sect has a lot of background, and it has indeed found some good spiritual objects." Guan's expression froze. He didn't expect Li Zhirui to admit it so generously, which made him embarrassed. "Dao, I have a good wood-based magical power in my hand. Would you like to take a look?" Wang Zhao, who heard the noise, came to the rescue. From Daking and Zhaoqing, it can be seen that Li Zhirui has wood spiritual roots. As for whether he has other spiritual roots, they don't know. Okay, Li Zhirui took the jade slip with a smile, and the contents emerged in his mind after a spiritual sense. The wood hiding technique is a magical power with no lethality, but it can be covered with plants, or even shielded from one's own breath. The effect is better than the cicada breathing technique that Li Zhirui has been using, but it can only be performed in places with plants. This shortcoming is nothing to a cultivator like Li Zhirui who is proficient in wood-based magic, because he can give birth to a forest by himself, and then he can hide at will. "Thank you, Dao. I am just lacking such a magical power," Li Zhirui said with a smile, and returned the jade slip by the way. "As long as you are satisfied," Wang Zhao smiled slightly, and then asked, "I wonder what method you want to find? The Sutra library is in a mess now, why don't I help you find it?" Li Zhirui saw his little thoughts, but he didn't care. In fact, from the moment Wang Zhao took out the jade slip, he knew that some of the high-value jade slips in the Sutra library had been collected by them. As for why Wang Zhao wanted to follow him, it might be to see what jade slips he could find and to prevent him from collecting some jade slips privately. "Okay, then I'll trouble you, Wang Dao." Li Zhirui nodded with a smile and asked, "I wonder where the 3rd-level pill formula is? There is an alchemist in the family, and we are short of the 3rd-level pill formula." When he was collecting spiritual medicines on the mountain before, he saw that the Yuluo sect had collected a lot of pill formulas. Since he had already collected the raw materials, He naturally couldn't miss the pill formula. Dao Yao's family is really full of talents, Wang Xiao smiled and complimented, and he understood in his heart. No wonder they were so rich and powerful to cultivate 2 third-level spirit beasts. It turned out that there was a third-level alchemist. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a little envious. If the Beastmaster sect also had a third-level alchemist, would they not stop at the middle stage of the golden core, and would they not have only 1 third-level spirit beast? Unfortunately, neither Guan nor Wang Xiao had any talent in alchemy, and it was almost impossible for them to become third-level alchemists. The Beastmaster sect did train many talented alchemists, but they were all stuck at the bottleneck of the golden core, unable to even break through the realm, let alone refine the third-level spirit pill. Soon, the two came to the jade cabinet where the pill formula was placed. Seeing that there were obviously a few jade slips missing, Li Zhirui had a bad feeling in his heart. Was it taken away by the disciples of the Yuluo sect, or was it collected in advance by the Beastmaster sect? What a pity, just like other places, a few jade slips were taken away, Wang Xiao sighed. Li Zhirui did not speak. He could not tell whether the other party was pretending or telling the truth. He only took a few jade slips and checked the recorded pill formula. Not long after, he read through the jade slips. There were 4 third-level elixir recipes. Namely Zhengyunden, Buqidan, Suxudan and Buiandan. In addition to Suxudan, which can increase ki and blood and is highly sought after by physical practitioners, the Li family has recipes for the other 3 elixirs, and Li Zhirui can refine them. Seeing Li Zhirui's face full of disappointment, Wang Xiao knew that he did not get the right recipe, and he actually felt a little excited. Let's go. These recipes are not precious. Then Li Zhirui went to the jade cabinet where the exercises were placed. Although almost all the members of the Li family practiced the Wanling Jing, there would occasionally be 1 or 2 rebellious people, such as Li Zhixuan. Therefore, it is better to prepare the exercises in advance, so as to avoid deviant members of the family without suitable exercises. Chapter 325 Encounter. However, there were more missing jade slips on the jade cabinet here. Li Zhirui was too lazy to think about the reason and started to check these jade slips. After reading all of them, he found a complete giant in realm technique called Kingho Wrangling Sutra, but after a rough scan, Kingho Sutra was not very good. But think about it, if this jade slip is valuable, how could it be left here intact after passing through the hands of 2 groups of people? So Li Zhirui was not too disappointed. He copied the content casually and got up and left. Dao Yao, you don't need to accompany me anymore. I think there should be nothing good in the Sutra Pavilion. I will go first and wait for the 2 Daoists outside. He didn't want to waste time anymore. Okay, Wang Xiao didn't try to stop him. He just said, after this matter is resolved, we will go back to the mountain gate and give you what I promised to Dao Yao before. Li Zhirui nodded and flew away from here. If he had that time, he might as well record the various methods he had memorized in jade slips, so that his memory would not become blurred over time. When he flew away from Yuluo Mountain, he found that the disciples who originally belonged to Yuluo sect were now busy on the mountain. If you look closely, you will find that there is a complex pattern on the back of their necks. This is, the Beastmaster sect actually enslaved these monks. Those marks are used to control the lives of others, so that people cannot disobey your orders. However, this matter has nothing to do with Li Zhirui. He will not help them out of kindness. He just took a look and retracted his gaze, busying himself with recording the jade slips. About an hour later, Guan came out with some disciples and said, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. We will go back to the mountain gate and copy the 10,000 Spirit Sutra to you. The remaining Wang Xiao and others still need to continue to clean up Yuluo Mountain and monitor the enslaved monks. Thank you. Li Zhirui drove the spirit boat to follow them, and everyone rushed back to the Beastmaster sect without mentioning the conversation between Guan and the others. Li Zhirui was quietly waiting outside. When Guan came out again, there was not only 1 spirit ship, but he brought a large number of disciples with him. It seemed that he was going to manage Yuluo Mountain well. Dao Yao, this is the Wanling Sutra. Li Zhirui took the jade slip in front of him, explored it with his spiritual sense, and roughly read it. He did not find any obvious mistakes. Moreover, they dared not tamper with it because of the oath of Dao. However, Li Zhirui also found that there were several differences from the Wanling Sutra handed down by the family. He was not sure which one was correct. After returning home, he had to discuss it with Li Shiking and others. In this way, Our contract is completed. Li Zhirui originally planned to leave, but after thinking about it, he asked, Dao Gu, do you know where the other group of fellow disciples are? Just the direction is fine. As he said that, he handed over a few bottles of Xingyan Dan. I don't know much either. I only heard from the elders that outside Dongzhou, there is a group of fellow disciples with the same roots, but I don't know the specific situation. For the sake of the spirit pill, Guan thought for a long time before giving an accurate answer. Outside Dongzhou? Li Zhirui's face was not very good. Zhizhou was not considered. The two places were separated by hundreds of millions of miles. With the escaped Jinden and Foundation building, I am afraid that all of them would die on the road, and that was also the territory of the demons. But excluding Zhizhou, there are still Zhonggao, Bizhou and Nanzhou. It is like looking for a needle in a haystack to find the beast-taming sect among them. It seems that we can only wait for more than 10 years until that secret realm opens to see if we can get the complete Wanling Sutra from it. Li Zhirui sighed in his heart. If possible, he didn't want to enter that secret realm because it was too dangerous. Let's not talk about anything else for now. Just talking about the 4th level secret realm, we can imagine how dangerous this secret realm is. Unfortunately, for himself and for the family, he must go to that secret realm. Thank you for telling me. I'll take my leave now. Putting away the complicated thoughts in his mind, after bidding farewell to Guan, Li Zhirui drove the spirit ship and flew southeast. This was the direction of Banyan Island. Guan looked at the back in the distance and slowly retracted his gaze. He did not tell Li Zhirui that he actually knew the whereabouts of another beast-taming sect. They were in Nanzhou, where there were the most monsters. But he did not say it, not because he was worried about the safety of the beast-taming sect. The strength over there was much stronger than theirs. Li Zhirui did not dare to think so arrogantly in the past. He just simply did not want to say it, but it was Li Zhirui's side. After he set out on his way home, he was busy comprehending the Wanling Sutra and wanted to know whether this change was good or bad. At first, the road was calm and no cultivator dared to stop the spirit ship of a Jinden cultivator. But not long after entering Hishizhou, he was actually targeted by a Jinden demon cultivater. Blackwater Province is a land with a large area, larger than Wanli Province and Shifan Province combined. It has moderate spiritual energy, so there are many cultivation forces, including immortal cultivators, demon cultivators, and demon cultivators. It is very chaotic. The two sides are in opposition, and once they meet, there will be a big battle. Although Li Zhirui is not from Blackwater Province, he is also a cultivator, and then he was targeted by this demon cultivator. The demon cultivator summoned a piece of black cloud, layer upon layer, directly trapping the spirit ship in the center to prevent Li Zhirui from suddenly accelerating and escaping. At the same time, hideous and extremely ugly demon beasts emerged from the black cloud, roaring and rushing towards Li Zhirui. Li Zhirui, who was originally comprehending the skills, reacted immediately, but was still a step slower. He could only let Decking come out to resist the attack so that he could see what was going on. Humph, you don't know how to live or die? It's not that Li Zhirui despises the other party, but he doesn't think highly of this demon cultivator at all. Although he was also in the middle stage of the Golden Core, Li Zhirui had 2 third-level spirit beasts, Decking and Zhaoqing, by his side. Unless there were multiple Golden Core demon cultivators, or powerful late Golden Core cultivators, he would not be their opponent at all. Decking defended, Zhaoqing attacked. And Li Zhirui was responsible for entanglement with the opponent. Since he took the initiative, Li Zhirui would naturally not let this person go. In fact, when Decking appeared, the demon cultivator vaguely sensed that something was wrong, and knew that he was on the edge of an iron plate, so he turned around and tried to escape. But Li Zhirui didn't give him a chance at all. The water and wood divine light flashed and shot, and in an instant, he caught up with the demon cultivator and blocked his escape. At this time, Zhaoqing's attack also came, and the wind blades continued to attack him. The sharp edge made it impossible to ignore. He could only turn around and cast a spell to offset it, while looking for an opportunity to escape. Li Zhirui would not give him this chance at all. I saw giant vines rising into the sky, and the tiny stems entangled with each other, forming a huge green cage in an instant, trapping the demon cultivator in it. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.